Chapter 807. And Ji's heart jumped. He didn't expect Lin Fan to be faster than him when he used the wind escape technique. In at most 1 or 2 seconds, Ngu was stopped before he could use the teleportation talisman. "Kid, move aside if you know what's good for you. I'm not like the 3 idiot," Ngu said viciously as killing intent flashed across his eyes. The fact that the 3 of them were killed by Lin Fan was a huge matter in the eyes of the other competitors. But in Nji's eyes, it wasn't much. He was ranked 6th on the Qian Tsang Genius roll, a 3-star spirit sequencer. He was the youngest 3-star spirit sequencer in history. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that he was a monster. In terms of strategy against the Hades, Nji's role was even more important than the 3 demons who were ranked first on the Prodigy roll. The production of super talismans had to rely on a star-grade spirit sequencer. A talisman above level 20 was destructive to most netherworld creatures. "Hand over 300,000 battle points and I'll let you go." Li Daochong was annoyed. He had frozen the demonic black nightmare vines with his absolute frost chi. Originally, he wanted to test out the strongest sacred art of the absolute frost divine technique. Absolute cold ice god sword wheel slash. In the end, this kid took advantage of it. How could Li Daochong not be angry? "Kid, who gave you the courage to ask for battle points from me? Is there something wrong with your brain?" Ngu looked at Li Daochong as if he was looking at an idiot. Pung! The moment Ngu said that, a heavy fist smashed into his face. A shooting star fell from the sky. Ngu smashed into the ground like a cannonball. With a loud explosion, a huge hole appeared on the ground. The competitors watching from afar all had their mouths wide open. Their chins were on the ground as they looked at this scene in shock. Everyone's brain short-circuited. Ngu was so strong, but he was sent flying with 1 punch. Lu Yuandao and Du Ruo were also shocked. Ngu was a genius on the same level as them. Although Ngu wasn't good at close combat and was more proficient in using talisman attacks, that was only against opponents of the same level. To most of the competitors, Ngu was much stronger than them in close combat. F***ck Li Daochong spat. Hearing Nji's nonsense made him even angrier. Li Daochong's figure flashed and disappeared. The next moment, he appeared in the middle of the crater that Ngu had created. Ngu was shocked. He didn't expect this guy to be so aggressive. He didn't even see the punch clearly. It looked like Ngu had suffered a heavy blow, but in fact, she was not injured at all. Under the triple protection of the robe, spiritual highland, and the protective shield, this level of physical damage couldn't hurt him. Moreover, at this level, the tenacity of the spirit body itself had reached an extremely terrifying level. Ngu stood up the moment she landed on the ground. She raised her head and saw that Li Daochong had disappeared. Her eyes widened, and 3 talismans were already in her hands. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A fire talisman, an ice talisman, and a thunder talisman. All of them were level 19 talismans. It was extremely powerful. When used together with the talisman, the original destructive power could be doubled. The ice talisman could slow down or even freeze the opponent, while the thunder talisman's explosive attack could directly shatter the frozen opponent. Finally, Huofu would cut the weeds and eliminate the root. Just now, the demonic black nightmare vine had been shattered into pieces by the thunder talisman after it had been frozen. Boom! The 3 talismans were shot out. Instantly, a huge iceberg appeared out of nowhere and blocked all 3 talismans. After the iceberg and the talisman collided, the 2 cancelled each other out and turned into ice crystals that dissipated in the void. Ice and snow fell in an area of dozens of square kilometers. It was like snowflakes in the depths of winter. Nji's expression froze. Sensing the fluctuation of the aura, he turned to look and saw a shadow shooting over. Good timing. Go. Ngu shouted softly and a talisman shot out. A level 20 fire talisman. Boom. After shooting out for less than 10 meters, the fire talisman exploded. Air billowed and a mushroom cloud soared into the sky. The shockwave covered an area of dozens of square kilometers. If the two forces hadn't cancelled each other out, it would have been able to destroy thousands of square kilometers. A level 20 talisman was enough to flatten thousands of kilometers of land. It could even destroy a small cultivation planet. And Gu didn't expect the opponent to be so powerful that he could go head-on against a level 20 fire talisman. Li Daochong didn't take any measures to dodge the incoming fire talisman. Instead, he punched out. More than 10 meters away, and Gu was also in the center of the explosion. The impact of the explosion sent him flying several kilometers away. The spiritual fire almost set Ngu on fire. Fortunately, the Dharma robe he was wearing was made by Master Yun Yao. It had a strong defense against 5 elements Dharma attacks. It was a heavenly mystic high-grade Dharma robe. It was only a little bit away from becoming an immortal. However, Ngu was still slightly injured by the terrifying impact. His chest was in turmoil and his spirit chi was in a mess. His face was pale. "Humph, you're indeed powerful. Unfortunately, you're a brute and an idiot. You used your fist to go against 20 talismans. Do you think you're a body-tempering cultivator in the body-tempering stage? You won't even know how you died." And Gu snorted. His eyes were full of disdain. In his opinion, Li Daochong must have been blown to the resurrection point. The dust settled, and Ji's cold smile froze instantly. His eyes bulged, and his mouth opened wide as he looked at the figure that was gradually becoming clearer in the dust. Li Daochong's clothes were tattered, and there was smoke coming out of his body. He kept spitting something out of his mouth. What a powerful fire talisman! Li Daochong spat out a few mouthfuls of dust and said nonchalantly. Then, Li Daochong raised his head and looked at Ngu. He grinned. "This is not good enough. Do you have anything more powerful?" Ngu no longer looked at him as an idiot. Instead, he looked at him as if he was looking at a monster. Where did this monster come from? Ngu wanted to hold back, but the chill on his back made him realize that if he did not use his trump card, he would have to go to the resurrection point. The battle merits that he would lose would be immeasurable. "Taoist Brother Yuan, who is that guy?" Du Rua looked at Li Daochong with a strange expression and asked. As a powerful divine strategist, Du Rua had information on all the seated contestants, including Mo Chensi, Han Pe, and Yu Qinghe. However, he could not find any information on this young man. It was as if he was a contestant that appeared out of thin air. "No, I don't know. I've never seen him before." Lu Yuandao was confused. "This guy's battle power is on par with ours. Not only does he know how to use the extreme cold spirit chi, but he is also very strong in close combat. And Ngu was beaten like a dog in one move. The two of us will not be any better." Du Rua quickly calculated Li Daochong's battle power from the strength that he had displayed so far. Not long ago, the 3 experts that were recognized by all the contestants in Kingdom No. 6 were gathered together. This was the first time such a grand occasion had happened in 7 months. However, after a while, one of the 3 experts was beaten to the point that he could not fight back. The other 2 were stunned and looked at the contestant who had appeared out of nowhere. "Found him!" Du Rua suddenly exclaimed. Lu Yuandao's pupils shrank. He immediately asked, "Who is he?" "Li Daochong." Du Rua immediately replied. "Him? It's actually him." Lu Yuandao's face was filled with disbelief. He continued, "This guy caused a lot of trouble before the start of the competition. However, rumor has it that he is not strong." Du Rua looked at Li Daochong with a serious expression. She paused and said, "Rumors are just rumors after all. I felt that this guy's behavior during the revival competition was strange. I could not see his face clearly. It was always a little blurry. No wonder no one recognized him when he appeared. If I did not make a comparison just now, I would not have known that it was him." "Did the Jiuxuan spirit paragon see him too?" Lu Yuandao asked curiously. That's right. It's him. I've already made a comparison. Although the spirit vision images that have been circulating are very blurry, my 10,000 telepathic trace can break through all barriers. There's no mistake, Du Roi said with certainty. As the two of them spoke, the two below moved again. And Ji's aura was very strong. A terrifying aura whirlpool surged around him. Crackle, crackle. A spirit talisman wrapped in lightning slowly floated up. A level 23 spirit talisman. Du Roi exclaimed. Lu Yuandao's body shook. He could feel the terrifying spirit chi from the spirit talisman below. He could not help but shiver. In fact, spirit talismans that exceeded level 20 could pose a threat to monsters like them. If a level 23 spirit talisman was made well, it would not have a large area of destruction. Instead, it would have an extremely strong penetrative power. Could easily penetrate their spirit bodies. Li Daochong is finished this time, Lu Yuandao muttered. Below. Li Daochong, you should be proud to be able to force out this spirit talisman of mine. Go to hell, wind and thunder spirit talisman. And Gu shouted loudly. The spirit talisman wrapped in lightning and radiating brilliance whizzed out like a spirit particle nuclear bomb. Its speed was extremely fast, almost the same as the speed of light. Li Daochong's heart skipped a beat when the spirit talisman appeared. The two attributes intertwined and fused. It was actually a dual attribute level 23 spirit talisman. Li Daochong had never made a dual attribute spirit talisman before. He did not even think about it. This time, he learned something new. Li Daochong curled his lips and laughed lightly. Bastard, do you think you are the only one with a spirit talisman? Swoosh, 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 the spirit talismans in Li Daochong's hands shot out in unison. There were a total of 6 spirit talismans, and all of them were level 19 strengthened spirit talismans. You want to compete with my spirit talismans? Little bastard, you are thinking too much. And Gu laughed. His laugh was very proud. Why didn't Li Daochong dodge? How can his spirit talismans be compared to Nji's? Isn't he using his weakness to attack Nji's strength? Lu Yuandao could not understand. Du Roi was also at a loss. She did not know what Li Daochong was thinking. At this time, the best plan was to dodge or use a mystique to attack Ngu. Only then would they have a chance of survival. After all, the two of them were too close. It was already impossible to completely dodge. Bang, bang, bang. Li Daochong's 6 spirit talismans clashed with Nji's wind and thunder spirit talisman. A series of deafening muffled noises erupted. It was as if a giant was hitting a sandbag between heaven and earth. Du Roi exclaimed softly. Chapter 808. Once there was a difference in the levels of talismans. A high-level talisman would be able to crush a low-level talisman. As a 3-star spirit sequencer, Ngu had a unique advantage. His main attack method was talismans. From an outsider's perspective, Ngu had an endless supply of talismans. Not only that, but he also carried a terrifyingly powerful talisman with him. Even Emochensi, Yuqinghe, and Hanpa might not be able to take it head-on. Therefore, it was difficult to accurately judge Nji's combat power. If he carried a large number of high-level or even super talismans, his combat power would be almost limitless. At this level, the consumption of talismans was almost negligible unless all the talismans were above level 20. Otherwise, the consumption of spirit chi would be minimal. Going against Nji's talismans was no different from courting death. However, Li Daochong's talismans clashed with Nji's super talismans. The crushing effect didn't appear. What made everyone speechless was that Li Daochong's 6 talismans actually blocked Nji's level 23 wind thunder talisman. After the talismans were triggered, the spirit chi and law power released by the talismans cancelled each other out by more than half. This caused the extremely powerful level 23 talisman's aura to decrease, and the surrounding cyclone became smaller and smaller. Li Daochong actually has such a powerful talisman? It must have been made by a master. Otherwise, how could it resist Anji's dual attribute super talisman? Lu Yuandao said in surprise. Li Daochong has more trump cards than we thought. Du Ruo looked at Li Daochong calmly. And Gu looked at the talisman. He was proud of being destroyed by Li Daochong in shock. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Li Daochong pursed his lips and muttered to himself in a voice that only he could hear. Good fellow, I used 6 of my level 19 enhanced talismans, and it still hasn't been used up. This dual attribute talisman is indeed powerful. Although the Wind Thunder talisman was blocked, the 6 level 19 enhanced talismans still couldn't completely cancel it out. With the remaining Spirit Chi and Law power, the Wind Thunder talisman still shot towards Li Daochong. Boom! Li Daochong punched out and destroyed the Wind and Thunder talisman. The contestants in the distance only felt lightning flashing and thunder rumbling as the lightning force rushed over. They were so scared that they retreated again. And Ji's eyes were bloodshot. He still had a few level 23 talismans on him. Every time he used one, he would have one less. Every single one of them required a lot of effort, expensive resources, and time. He still had to save some trump cards and could not use them anymore. And Gu narrowed her eyes. Suddenly, her body lit up, and hundreds of talismans flew out from her storage ring. Die! And Gu shouted angrily. Hundreds of talismans lined up neatly in 2 rows, transformed into streams of multicolored light and darted towards Li Daochong. Tap tap tap, every talisman was like a high-explosive spirit bullet fired from a spirit gun at a high frequency. The frequency was getting faster and faster, as if a Gatling gun was firing. Li Daochong had already used his absolute cold god art to support one absolute cold ice wall after another. The lower the temperature, the harder the ice wall. Da-da-da, bang bang bang. At that moment, one was attacking and one was defending. The situation was in a stalemate. The contestants watching from afar were filled with shock. Many of them were thinking about what they would do if they faced such an attack. After thinking about it, there was only one outcome. They would be blasted into smithereens under the concentrated attacks of the talismans. These talismans had all kinds of attribute. Fire talismans, lightning talismans, ice talismans, wind talismans, gold talismans, and even the heaven lightning talisman that could activate a trace of heaven lightning. They were all purely offensive talismans. Some people were thinking about how to deal with Nji's concentrated attacks, while others were thinking about how to break Li Daochong's impenetrable ice wall. At the same time, they could not think of a better way to break it. On one side was a sharp spear, on the other was a thick shield. Neither side seemed to be able to do anything to the other. Under such a situation, the spectating contestants all praised Li Daochong's tenacity. To be able to fight with Ngu, who was ranked 6th in Qianzong, to such an extent, his strength was quite terrifying. He definitely had the strength of a top 10 prodigy. However, no one knew that from the start, Li Daochong was not fighting seriously. After experimenting on the Tian 3 heroes, he was still not satisfied. Now, he was experimenting on Ngu. If Li Daochong used the techniques and abilities that he was familiar with, Ngu would have been killed instantly. Li Daochong had not used the Tsang ink that had been upgraded to Purple Mystic. Not to mention that the power of Purple Mystic had increased exponentially after adding in the Chaos Fragments. Even if he used the previous Tsang ink, one slash would have the power to split heaven and earth. Brother Du, who do you think will be the first to give up? Lu Yuandao asked. Brother Lu, from the very beginning, Li Daochong had the absolute upper hand. Don't tell me you can't see it? Du Ruo asked with a look of having seen through. Really? I really can't see it. Lu Yuandao shook his head. Every time Ngu attacked, he would use up a large amount of talismans. It looks like he did not use much, but talismans are one-time use items that cannot be regenerated in a short period of time. In addition to the previous consumption, Ngu is close to his limit. On the other hand, Li Daochong is using a technique that can be used repeatedly. As long as he has spiritual energy, he can use it continuously. Not only that, it looks like Li Daochong has not used his trump card and has been playing with Ngu. To me, it looks more like he is playing a game and is not fighting seriously. Otherwise, Ngu would have been sent to the revival point long ago. Du Rua analyzed calmly. If what Brother Du said is true, then this Li Daochong is too scary. Lu Yuandao's eyes were filled with fear. Scary? How can someone who can make the Jiuxuan spirit supremacy think highly of not be scary? Those people who say that Li Daochong does not live up to his name are just a bunch of keyboard warriors who only know how to hide in the dark corners of the spirit intranet and talk nonsense. Can their words be trusted? Du Rua's tone was filled with disdain. Other than disgust towards keyboard warriors, he was even more disgusted. The talisman bullets were still attacking intensely. However, Nji's expression was getting worse and worse. No matter how many talismans he had, he could not withstand such consumption. On the other hand, Li Daochong stood behind more than 10 absolute zero ice walls and yawned. He looked bored. Ngu threw out a teleportation talisman and his figure gradually disappeared. Ngu actually ran away. A small number of participants who worshipped Ngu said in disbelief. Just as they finished speaking, Ngu appeared in the void a few miles away. Lu Yuandao said in surprise, The teleportation talisman can only teleport this far? Did Ngu take the wrong talisman? Du Rua's eyes were filled with shock. He continued, The talisman is not wrong. It's just that Ngu can't use the teleportation talisman at all. Lu Yuandao was stunned. Why can't he use it? Du Ru replied with a serious expression, because Ngu has been fighting in Li Daochong's absolute zero ice domain. Lu Yuandao was secretly shocked. Absolute zero ice domain. Cultivators who could create a domain were all peerless geniuses. Li Daochong really had the ability to enter the top 10 of the prodigy roll. Lu Yuandao had only comprehended the fire domain 3 years ago. Since then, his ability had increased greatly and he had entered the top 5 of the prodigy roll. Ngu, who was being teleported, was still smiling. However, when he was teleported, his expression froze. What's going on? Where am I? Who am I? A series of questions flashed past Nji's mind. It was not that he did not know where he was, but he could not believe that he was still in this area. Could it be that he was dreaming? Ngu used a level 20 teleportation talisman. Suddenly, Ngu sucked in a breath of cold air and her eyes widened. Domain? Impossible. You're leaving without saying goodbye. You don't know any manners. Just as Ngu was shocked, Li Daochong's faint voice sounded beside him. Chapter 809. Ngu heard Li Daochong's voice and turned to look. The latter was licking his lips and looking at him with a smile, as if he was looking at a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Ngu narrowed his eyes. He knew that this unfamiliar youth was stronger than him. If he did not use his trump card now, he would die here today. He would become the first top 10 prodigy to report to the resurrection point since the start of the competition. If word of this got out, the 10,000 Wonder Talisman's face would be completely thrown away by this star of hope. Ngu was right. The ancestor of the Myriad Mystery Talisman, Spirit Supremacy Myriad Mystery, was watching this battle through an observer. The Spirit Supremacy used his powerful divine will to transmit the image. The higher-ups of the Myriad Mystery Talisman were all watching this battle that was supposed to end with Nji's victory. The moment Ngu looked at Li Daochong, 2 spiritual talismans with terrifying spirit chi laws whizzed out. He was going all out. Almost at the same time, Li Daochong shot out a beam of light from his hand. He had expected Ngu to go all out. Hence, Li Daochong did not hold back either. He threw out his only level 25 talisman. Li Daochong had many tricks up his sleeve, and every one of them was enough to kill Ngo. However, no matter how powerful a divine ability was, how could it be more satisfying than using a talisman to defeat Ngo? Give him a taste of his own medicine. I'll use your strongest move to defeat you. When Ngo saw Li Daochong shoot out a talisman as well, he showed the joy of victory for the first time. However, the next moment, Ng's eyes widened. The 2 level 23 talismans that he shot out were instantly destroyed. A terrifying flame engulfed him with a swoosh. No! Ngo could only let out a muffled scream before he disappeared. The 2 level 23 talismans neutralized a lot of the power of the laws. However, Li Daochong's strengthened level 25 talisman still had terrifying fire laws. After destroying Ngo, the flame shot to the ground. Boom! A shocking mushroom cloud shot up into the sky. Everything within a few hundred kilometers was swallowed. All the netherworld creatures were swallowed by the flame before they could react. The competitors who retreated tens of kilometers away were also unable to escape. Other than a small number of strong players who barely managed to withstand the impact of the flames, most of the contestants were sent to the respawn point after the flames dissipated. Even Lu Yuandao and Du Rual were almost hit. Fortunately, they were hovering in the air, so the impact was relatively small. Moreover, they were very strong, so they were not injured. Li He and Yu Yunshan originally thought that they were going to die, but the moment the flames rushed over, an illusory figure flashed past, bringing the 2 of them into the sky to avoid the impact. The 2 were held in Li Daochong's hands. Their faces were pale and they were still in shock. If not for Li Daochong's help, they would have been dead already. They would probably be sent to the resurrection point before they could even react. Yu Yen was also safe and sound under the cover of Li Daochong's spiritual gang. Looking at the completely changed landscape below, there was only scorched earth as far as the eye could see. The ground had sunk down by at least 100 meters. The Jiuxuan God Realm's environment was many times tougher than the outside world, but it still couldn't withstand the impact just now. This was enough to show how terrifying the power of Li Daochong's talisman was. Even a large cultivation planet would probably disappear from the starry sky after being hit by it. Bang! On the Myriad Star Island, where the Myriad Mystery Talisman's headquarters was located, Spirit Sovereign Myriad Mystery slammed his palm on the stone platform. A crack appeared on the ground of the Myriad Star Island, which was 100 kilometers wide. The entire island was split in half by the palm. Today, the Myriad Mystery Talisman had organized more than 1,000 upper echelons of enterprises to come to Myriad Star Island to watch the competition. The Myriad Mystery Talisman had prepared a large amount of spirit wine and spirit dishes to celebrate Nge's good results in this competition. Who would have thought that not only would Ngu fail to maintain her original ranking, but she would also be killed by an unknown contestant. What was even more infuriating was that the other party used the talisman that the Myriad Mystery Talisman was so proud of. This was clearly a slap to the face of the Myriad Mystery Talisman. Brother Myriad Mystery, that kid's talisman is so powerful. Could he be the disciple of Spirit Sovereign Thousand Hands? The other great ancestor of the Myriad Mystery Talisman, Spirit Sovereign Junyan, guessed. No, Thousand Hands hasn't cared about worldly affairs for many years. She only focused on cultivating the Deqian divine technique. Her disciples are all over 60 years old and can't participate in the competition. Thousand Hands' attainments in talisman crafting are indeed high, but she isn't interested in talisman crafting. Her disciples' spirit wills are only average and have no talent. Myriad Mystery denied. If he isn't, then which Spirit Sovereign's disciple could he be? If he isn't, how could he have such a powerful talisman? Nge's 2 level 23 talismans didn't have any resistance at all. That kid's talisman is at least level 25. A director said with a puzzled expression. In my opinion, I'm afraid it has nothing to do with the 9 mystic Spirit Sovereign. An old man in his twilight years interjected. Spirit's sovereign myriad mystery glanced at the old man and nodded. Elder Chu is right. Didn't you guys recognize that kid as Li Daochong that Jiuxuan B** tch met a while ago? His words caused an uproar among the crowd. What's that Jiuxuan B** tch planning? Why did she have to meet a kid that we've never heard of? Spirit's sovereign Junyan snorted. Could it be that Jiuxuan wants to tamper with the competition to let the Kuan Empire get more spots to enter the path of reincarnation? That director continued. What a good spirit sovereign Jiuxuan. Just because the Kuan Empire is the organizer, she thinks she can cheat. That kid's level 25 talisman must have been given to him by Jiuxuan. Otherwise, with that kid's background, how could he have gotten his hands on such a powerful talisman that even the three great self-cultivator empires strictly control? Another spirit's sovereign myriad mystery said angrily. If that's the case, then let's let Han Pa deal with that kid. We can't let spirit's sovereign Jiuxuan get her way. Elder Chu's eyes flashed. Great ancestor myriad mystery. Should we contact Jade Clear Great Void Republic and join forces with them to fight against Kuan? Otherwise, Jiuxuan has the advantage of time, place, and people. It'll be hard for us to fight against them. The Jiuxuan God World was created by Jiuxuan's sacred ability. We can't get in. Someone suggested. I've already sent a message to Spirit Sovereign Jade Clear and told him my guess. Let's wait and see what they think about this. Spirit Sovereign Myriad Mystery narrowed his eyes. The immortal godly palace naturally didn't know about the commotion on planet Myriad Mystery. However, all the self-cultivators in the immortal godly palace seemed to have forgotten to breathe. Everyone was rooted to the spot as they stared blankly at the top of the jade tablet. Li Daochong's name moved once again. 1,000,000 battle points was enough to shock everyone. This was enough to prove that Li Daochong wasn't a weakling contestant. In fact, he had far exceeded everyone's expectations. The top 100 contestants were all young self-cultivators who stood at the pinnacle of life in the three great self-cultivator empires. They represented the top of the younger generation in the entire human realm. It would be extremely difficult for Li Daochong to advance any further. Before this, Li Daochong was the name that was mentioned the most frequently by the various super self-cultivator enterprises in the immortal godly palace. A few minutes ago, Kunlun, which had always been neglected, suddenly became a hot commodity. Many heavenly lords came to congratulate Naylan Shou and praised her for having a good eye. Goddess Jin Xiu, I really admire you. I didn't expect Kunlun to find such a good seedling in such a short time. This is really worth celebrating. I've tried my best to chase after you, but I still can't catch up. A tribulation passing stage old woman sighed with admiration. This old woman was in the middle tribulation passing stage, and was known as Senior Nun Qing Mia, Heavenly Lord. She was emotionless and had cut off all worldly thoughts. She had an extremely eccentric personality, and was able to say such words. This was enough to show how envious Senior Nun Qing Mia was. Of course, they were mostly trying to worm their way into being friends with Naylan Xiu. As long as a cultivator enterprise had a participant in the top 300, they would have an extra slot to enter the path of reincarnation for every 30 spots they gained. Of course, this ranking had to be the final one. However, the contestants who could enter the top 200 now had immeasurable strength and potential, even if their current ranking wasn't the final one. It was hard to say where their final ranking would be. It might not be as good as their current ranking, or it might be higher than their current ranking. In short, Kunlun had 2 people in the top 200. They were already one of the best among the tens of millions of self-cultivator enterprises in the Kuan Empire. If Li Daochong's rank of 117 was the final ranking, then Kunlun would have an extra 6 slots to enter the path of reincarnation. For the various self-cultivator enterprises, The final goal of this competition was to obtain as many slots as possible. There were simply too many secrets in the path of reincarnation. Unearthing even a little bit of it would be a treasure for any self-cultivator enterprise. The path of reincarnation was the only answer to the existence of the immortal world. The path of reincarnation was also the key to fighting against the Hades. Therefore, the self-cultivator enterprises that could obtain more slots would become the target of other self-cultivator enterprises. This was because the slots could be traded. Kunlun has a successor. I wonder how Fairy Jean Xiao managed to recruit such a talent. What's your trick? Please share with us. We are all pillars of the Kuan Empire. We should help each other. The founder of the roller coaster, Nirvana Heaven Lord, said to Nalan Xiao with a smile. This veteran Nirvana Heaven Lord was one of the strongest cultivators in the tribulation passing stage. Other than spirit supremacies, he didn't care about anyone else. However, he was unusually amiable when facing Nalan Xiao. This already explained everything. Priestess Compassionless and Nirvana Heaven Lord were just two representative. During this time, more than 30 self-cultivator enterprises had come to curry favor with Nalan Xiao. And the reason for this? It was all because of Li Daocheng's crazy rise in the rankings. In fact, Nalan Xiao's intestines were green with regret. Her previous attitude towards Li Daocheng was so cold. She didn't think that she had misjudged him. Deep down, she still looked down on Li Daocheng, who came from a rural village. It was all her fault for being blinded by her obsession. It seems that my cultivation is still not enough. Nalan Xiao stared at Li Daocheng's high ranking and sighed in her heart. Fortunately, everything was still not too late. Nalan Xiao believed that as long as everything was done properly, Li Daocheng wouldn't turn hostile. The two women, Cherry Blossom Gauze and Xiaoling River, became Kunlun's VIPs. Several assistants surrounded them. Other than Nalan Xiao, everyone else respected the two women. Wang Xuemei, who was full of regret, learned from her painful experience and apologized to Xiaoling River in public. She almost knelt down and kowtowed. This made the little girl a little embarrassed. Miss Xia, please forgive Xuemei's previous offense. Here is a 2-star God transformation pill. Please accept it. Wang Xuemei bowed her head and handed over a small bottle. Xiaoling River was still young after all. She was a little overwhelmed in this situation. She paused and said, Sister Wang, I appreciate your kindness. I can't accept such a valuable item. Brother Dao Chong will say that I'm not sensible. Please accept it. Wang Xuemei's heart skipped a beat when she heard this. The way she called Dao Chong Brother Dao Chong was so intimate. It meant that the little girl in front of her had an unusual relationship with Li Daocheng. Previously, he had actually bullied and humiliated this little girl and even said those words. Wang Xuemei's heart trembled. She wanted to slap herself a few times. Who asked you to be a snob? Who asked you to be snobbish? Who asked you to look down on others? Miss Xia, look, this is a 2-star soul transformation pill. Even someone as slow-witted as me has no use for it. Please accept it so that I can feel better. Wang Xuemei was practically begging. Xiaolingxi really didn't want it. Li Daocheng had told her before that if she ate someone's food, her mouth would be too tight. Just as she was about to speak, she was interrupted by Luo Yingsha. Since that's the case, Lingxi, accept it. As she spoke, Cherry Blossom Gauze reached out and took the small bottle from Wang Xuemei's hand. It'll be a waste if you don't accept it. Don't worry and accept it. It'll be fine. Xiaoling River still wanted to say something, but Cherry Blossom Gauze's voice sounded in her mind. Li Daocheng's name is moving again. Someone yelled out nervously. In the immortal shrine, everyone looked at the jade tablet. Nalan Xiao's eyes widened. She, who had entered the tribulation passing stage, couldn't control her emotions. She couldn't stay calm anymore. Voodoo King tried to control his emotions. He stroked his goatee to cover it up. Li Daocheng, oh Li Daocheng, I've underestimated you. Li Daocheng's name climbed steadily. It passed the 100th position and headed towards the top of the pyramid. Chapter 8:10. Rising to the top 100, every rise in rank was harder than rising from 2 billion to 100 million. As the first stage of the competition entered its climax, the number of battles between competitors increased. The amount of battle points gained from killing the demons in the Jiuxuan God world was no longer enough to satisfy the competitors' need. Killing a demon general-level nether monster was worth 100,000 battle merits. However, the price to pay was huge, and many competitors didn't have the strength to do so. Adding on the fact that there weren't many dark monsters of this level, to obtain enough battle points at once, it wasn't realistic to rely on killing them. Almost all of the top 300,000 martial artists had accumulated more than 100,000 battle credit, of which 90% of them weren't as strong as the dark monsters. It was obvious that stealing other people's battle points was much easier than killing the dark monsters, and it was much faster and less dangerous. At this stage, every contestant had become extremely dangerous. On the ranking board, some contestants' battle merits soared rapidly, while others fell rapidly. The stronger the battle points, the higher the battle points. The top 100 all had 1.5 million battle points and above. To surpass them was as hard as ascending to the heavens. Hence, when everyone in the Undying God Palace saw Li Daocheng rise to the top 100, they didn't think that he would be able to surpass them. They all felt that it was impossible for him to advance too much and that he would eventually stop in the 90s. Even so, it was shocking enough, Li Daocheng's potential would rise to a whole new level. Tianyin made everyone feel as though their hearts were being stabbed. Li Daocheng's rise was like a slap to their faces. Not long ago, they were all mocking Kunlun for being blind and finding such trash. Sunset Lord didn't know whether to sit or stand. He didn't know where to place his old face. Even though Tai Yi didn't openly mock Kunlun as the most direct competitor, he didn't want to see Kunlun get a good ranking. However, things didn't go as he wished. This Li Daocheng seemed to be on steroids, and his ranking kept jumping. Brother Sunset, have you seen this Li Daocheng before? Seeing Li Daocheng rise to the top 100, Tai Yi couldn't help but ask. Nope. Sunset Lord didn't have the mood to speak, he looked distracted. Oh my God, why is it still moving? A cry of surprise came from the side. Li Daocheng's name didn't stop in the 90s as everyone expected. The number behind his name increased faster and faster, quickly passing the 1.5 million mark and rolling towards 2 million. 90, 80, 70, 60. There were still no signs of stopping after the 60th place. Is there something wrong with the rankings? Some people didn't believe it. How can this Li Daocheng be so powerful? Could it be that he's going to enter the top 10? How is this possible? Previously, Li Daocheng's rise in the rankings was still within the acceptable range. After all, he was ranked 47th on the Nam Kuan top 10. If he were to bring along some immortal transforming grade magic treasures and some powerful spiritual droplets weapons, it would still be possible for him to make it into the top 200. But after entering the top 100, he could still improve by such a large margin. The crowd couldn't accept it because subconsciously, they still thought that Li Daocheng couldn't be compared to the 3 true monsters on the prodigy roll. Li Daocheng's name was so dazzling at this moment, blinding everyone's eyes. Whoosh. 50. His battle merits had reached 1.9 million. It should be the limit. Everyone thought so in their hearts. Even the people from Kunlun felt that it was impossible for it to go any higher. Nalan Shou's beautiful eyes flashed with a strange light. At this moment, she was no longer thinking about Li Daocheng's ranking. She was shocked that Li Daocheng's strength was so strong. Although Nalan Xiu was a tribulation-passing cultivator, she was only a slightly talented tribulation-passing cultivator. She wasn't a genius. Those monsters in the top 20 of the Prodigy roll were comparable to Nayland Show in terms of status. Those in the top 10 might not be weaker than her in terms of combat strength. If there was no problem with the Prodigy roll and Li Daochong entered the top 50, didn't it mean that this kid's strength was close to hers? As soon as this thought came to mind, Nayland Show felt a chill down her spine. At this moment, Wang Xuemei, who had just given the soul transformation pill to Xiaoling River, turned around and saw Li Daochong's name enter the top 100. Soon, it reached the top 50. Plop! Wang Xuemei's legs went soft and she knelt in front of Xiaoling River. The latter was dumbfounded, not knowing why Assistant Wang was bowing to her. The little girl's face turned red. In terms of age, Wang Xuemei was at least 10 years older than her, and her cultivation was also above her. Although Xiaoling River had Li Daochong as a big backer, she was still young and her spirit meridians had just awakened. No matter how talented she was, her cultivation couldn't be too high. She had just touched the threshold of Jin Dan. Wang Xuemei's cultivation couldn't be considered high, but in the end, she was a high-level assistant of a super cultivation company like Kunlun, so Yuanying still had hope. A female Yuanying cultivator in her 30s was kowtowing to a 17 or 18-year-old girl who hadn't even reached the Jin Dan stage yet. This scene was really unsightly. The probability of this happening was 1 in 100 million. Even if the younger generation had a prominent family background, it was impossible for a Yuanying cultivator to kowtow to her, unless her strength was above Yuanying's. Assistant Wang, what are you? Xiaoling River said doubtfully. Wang Xuemei wasn't kowtowing. She was so scared that she peed her pants and couldn't stand. But since things had come to this, Wang Xuemei decided to go with the flow. She smiled awkwardly and said, Miss Xia, you stood for so long a few days ago, your legs must be sore. Let me help you massage them. With that, Wang Xuemei began to massage Xiaoling River's legs. Xiaoling River helplessly glanced at Cherry Blossom Gauze next to her, but the latter looked as if it was only natural. In the Hades, the inferior was the servant of the superior. It was normal for people like Wang Xuemei. Li Daochong's name had surpassed the 50th place, but it still showed no signs of stopping. Looking at the ranking list, everyone swallowed their saliva at the same time. Shock was not enough to describe their feelings at this moment. Every increase in rank was unbelievable. It must be fake. It must be fake. Sunset Heaven Monarch kept shouting in his heart, but the names in his eyes showed no signs of stopping. He steadily reached the 40th place. This. Tai Heaven Monarch was speechless. At this level, every increase in rank meant a leap in strength and potential. Oh my God, Li Daochong almost destroyed the southern district of the 6th capital. The boss of a cultivation company exclaimed as soon as he exited the Jiuxuan Divine Realm. It was as if he had seen something extremely terrifying. This boss happened to be an observer in the Jiuxuan Divine Realm and saw Li Daochong's final clash with Ngo. Is Li Daochong that powerful? A cultivator could not help but ask. This cultivator asked the question that everyone was thinking. Everyone looked at the boss curiously, waiting for his answer. The Jiuxuan Divine Realm was a world created by a spiritual supremacy. It was much harder than the outside world. The participants who entered the Jiuxuan Divine Realm did not have their original bodies, but their souls. Their strength was weaker than their original bodies. Over time, their strength in the Jiuxuan Divine Realm would be reduced. Under such circumstances, Li Daochong was still able to destroy an area? It seemed a little too unbelievable. Li Daochong has a level 25 spiritual talisman. The boss replied with lingering fear. His eyes were full of horror. The scene of the explosion just now was still reverberating and rolling in his sea of consciousness. Level 25 spiritual talisman? Someone asked curiously. That's right, Li Daochong used a level 25 talisman to kill Ngo, who was ranked 6th on the Qian Song Heaven's Pride list. The boss confirmed. So it was a level 25 spiritual talisman. I was wondering why Li Daochong was so strong. Anyone who wore it could improve so quickly. Someone exclaimed. Sunset Heaven Monarch was pumped up when he heard that. However, his face was dark and sunken. I was wondering why this Li Daochong was so strong. So he relied on external items. Sunset Heaven Monarch said in disdain. But how did Li Daochong get a level 25 spiritual talisman? That thing is a strategic weapon of mass destruction. There are less than 30 spirit sequencers in the entire human region who can craft a rank 25 spirit talisman. Every talisman is priceless, and it is impossible to buy one without at least 10 billion spirit stones. With Li Daochong's wealth, even if he has the backing of the Kunlun heavy industry, he won't be able to afford it, someone questioned. Don't forget that Jiuxuan's spiritual supremacy has seen this kid before. Someone reminded. Right, Jiuxuan's spiritual supremacy has seen him before. Is this the trump card that Jiuxuan's spiritual supremacy gave to Li Daochong? Someone guessed. That's possible. Someone else said. All of a sudden, more than half of the cultivators in the Undying God Palace calmed down. Receiving such an answer made them feel inexplicably much more comfortable. At the same time, most of them felt that it was reasonable. If that's the case, then Li Daochong won't be able to stay in the top rankings for long. He can use his equipment to deal with normal prodigies, but it won't work against those monsters. I know Ngu. He's the last disciple of spiritual supremacy Wanmiao. His talent is not bad, but his talent is mainly in spirit sequencers. He's the weakest in the top 10 prodigies of the prodigy role. His battle strength is completely dependent on the quality and quantity of spiritual talismans he carries. Without spiritual talismans, Ngu will lose half of his battle strength. Li Daochong is indeed a looter. Tai E Heaven Monarch analyzed. The Sunset Heaven Monarch gritted his teeth in hatred. Why didn't the Heavenly Een 3 heroes learn from Li Daochong? If this kid can do it, why can't you 3 team do it? Li Daochong's ranking was still rising. 35, 30, 25, 20, 19, 18, 15, 12, finally it stopped at 11. The sound of people sucking in cold air rose and fell one after another in the stands. This group of old fogies would never have thought that Li Daochong would rise to the 11th place. His battle points were 7 million. From the previous one, 1 million, it had doubled in size with a twist. It had increased more than Emochensi, Yuqinghe, and Hanpu. Even though they knew that Li Daochong had used a super spiritual talisman, they still couldn't believe it. How many spiritual talismans did this kid have? If he did, it was possible for him to rise again. At this moment, the giant screen that was playing the competition suddenly changed. It was no longer dozens of small screens that were pieced together, but the entire giant screen was showing the same image. It was the part where Li Daochong fought Ngu. The battle wasn't long. The first 2 exchanged blows, and in the end, Li Daochong crushed Ngu with one attack. Voodoo King was surprised. Isn't Li Daochong a divine spiritual sorcerer? How can he use such a powerful ice-type divine power? Voodoo King was a bit dumbfounded. He had always thought that Li Daochong wasn't very strong in close combat. He didn't expect Li Daochong to be so powerful. Nayland Shou frowned. She seemed to have seen Li Daochong's moves somewhere before. They had even fought before. Chapter 8-11. In an inconspicuous corner of the spectator stand, 2 old men and a woman in black were gathered. They were the upper echelons of the Black Tortoise Star's Yen family. One of them was Huang Fu Shuo, the one who lost to Li Daochong in the Blue Bay Star. Others might not know what kind of ability Li Daochong used, but Huang Fu Shuo was more than clear about it. This was the secret art he used to dominate the cultivation world. Ultimate cold ice divine formula, impossible! Huang Fu Shuo exclaimed. How long did Li Daochong have to cultivate this ability? Based on the flow of time in the outside world, it was no more than 3 months. It was a technique that was close to becoming an immortal. Throughout the long history of the human realm, from ancient times to the present, all the self-cultivators added up to trillions of levels, yet none of them could master it in such a short period of time. The woman in black and the old man standing beside Huangfu Shua were the two ancestors of the Yin family. One was the Black Phoenix Divine Lord, and the other was the Golden Crow Divine Lord. Both of them were direct descendants of the Phoenix bloodline, super cultivators whose Phoenix bloodline had reached 90% purity. The shock in their eyes was no less than Huangfu Shua's. They naturally knew where Li Daochong's ability came from. Brother Huangfu, are you sure that Li Daochong is using your ultimate cold ice divine formula? The Golden Crow Divine Lord asked. Heavenly Lord, no matter how old this old man is, there's no way I would mistake my own unique skill. Huangfu Shua said with certainty. If he can't learn it in 3 months, what if he takes 7 months? The Black Phoenix asked casually. Huangfu Shua and the Golden Crow Divine Lord's expressions changed as they looked at the Black Phoenix. The former asked with uncertainty, "You mean?" I entered as an observer a few times. Jiuxuan's divine world is mysterious. Senior Jiuxuan put a lot of thought into it. Not only did she choose the most suitable talents through the competition, she also gave everyone a chance to comprehend the power of laws. However, it depends on each participant's comprehension ability and whether they have the heart or not. Old man Huangfu, don't you find it strange? Li Daochong has been in the Jiuxuan divine world for 7 months, as if he didn't exist. But when he appeared, he shocked everyone. According to the flow of time in the Jiuxuan divine world, he reached the 11th place in 2 days. Even if he had some strength, it shouldn't be so heaven-defying. However, if he managed to comprehend the mysteries of laws in the Jiuxuan world, would be different. The Black Phoenix narrowed his eyes. Huangfu Shua was shocked. Black Phoenix's words were not without reason. Li Daochong had been absent for the past 7 months, and now he had suddenly popped up. We entered the Jiuxuan divine world as observers. We only paid attention to Yan Feng's performance and neglected this brat, Huangfu Shua said regretfully. Brother Huangfu, if Li Daochong really managed to comprehend the mysteries of laws in the Jiuxuan world, he is indeed powerful, but we shouldn't underestimate him. You and Yan Feng have done a great job in the Blue Bay Star. Yan Feng is much stronger than we expected. She has fused with the power of the true Phoenix bloodline and is enough to compete with those 3 guys. Li Daochong only appeared out of nowhere and made everyone's eyes light up. If he doesn't rise, he won't be able to rise as easily. He will be stuck at the 11th place, the Golden Crow Divine Lord said confidently. Brother Golden Crow is right. Yan Feng's strength is now comparable to those 3 guys. Li Daochong can only stay in the 2nd tier at most. Huangfu Shua's eyes flashed. He was a little proud of his wisdom on the Blue Bay Star. Using 3 supreme treasures to exchange for the lightning seed with Li Daochong seemed like a loss on the surface. However, the final result showed that he didn't lose anything. Yan Feng's strength had increased far beyond his expectations. This was more than enough. Jiuxuan Divine World, Imperial Capital No. 6. Li Daochong's talisman not only sent Ngo to the resurrection point, but also wiped out all the nether monsters within a few hundred kilometers. Dozens of contestants couldn't escape the flames and were sent to the resurrection point with hatred in their hearts. If it weren't for the fact that he killed so many people, Li Daochong's battle points wouldn't have increased so much. Half of Nji's battle points wouldn't have reached 1.6 million. Lu Yuandao and Du Ruo stared at Li Daochong in shock. They didn't think that this guy would really kill Ngo. The sense of superiority that was emitted naturally from within the 2 of them disappeared without a trace. In their hearts, they had already elevated Li Daochong to the same level as them. Another dark horse had appeared out of nowhere without any warning. Li Daochong replaced Ngu as the #1 contestant in Imperial Capital #6. He left the others far behind. Lu Yuandao and Du Ruo didn't have many battle points because they had been slacking off for the past 7 months. Their battle points hadn't even exceeded 1,000,000. Good brat, why didn't you take out such a powerful spiritual talisman earlier? You made me worry for nothing. Yu Yen recovered from her shock and immediately patted Li Daochong's shoulder as she spoke in a carefree manner. Li Daochong chuckled. There's only one talisman. I have to use it sparingly. Only one? What if that kid comes back to take revenge? Yu Yen said worriedly. Then let him go to the resurrection point again. Li Daochong's smile changed and became a little evil. Li He and Yu Yunshan were just bystanders. They watched Li Daochong's shocking performance again and again. They had nothing to say but worship him. The competition will end in 5 months. The 3 of you should go to the Imperial Capital and sell your equipment to earn battle points. It's too dangerous outside and you can be killed easily. The equipment that dropped just now is for you. Li Daochong said as he waved his hand. The hundreds of items scattered around flew over. The quality of this batch of items was much better than the ones Li Daochong had obtained before. The equipment that Ngu dropped was especially outstanding. Li Daochong didn't want any of the dropped items. He gave them all to Yu Yen and the others. With their strength, it would be difficult for them to pass the first round of the competition. Li Daochong could only help them this much. The second round would be even more brutal. It was enough to let them experience it. Li Daochong then parted with the 3 of them. He had accumulated enough battle points and didn't need to worry about them anymore. Next, he naturally went to find traces of Silver Bottle. Li Daochong had already sensed the others. Only Silver Bottle's aura didn't exist at all. Silver Bottle's name wasn't on the leaderboard either. This was very strange. However, Li Daochong wasn't worried that something would happen to Silver Bottle. After all, this was the Jiuxuan Divine Realm. Under the control of the Jiuxuan Spirit Sage, no one would be able to cause trouble. Li Daochong was just curious. What was Silver Bottle doing after entering the Jiuxuan Divine Realm? Why wasn't there any news at all? Deep in the mountains southwest of Imperial Capital #2, a young man covered in dust and wearing gray linen clothes looked like a farmer who had just returned from working in the field. The young man's eyes were lowered. No one knew what he was thinking. 7 young cultivators wearing navy blue Taoist robes surrounded him. Brat, how dare you steal our prey? Do you want to stay in the resurrection point forever? A thin and tall young man exuding a terrifying pressure of spirit chi said angrily. This thin and tall young man's cultivation had reached the mid-stage of the void refinement realm. The other 6 people were at the early stage of the void refinement realm. Such a combat team could be considered the top in the entire Jiuxuan Divine Realm. Just now, the 7 of them had besieged a newly appeared nether demon and had beaten it to the brink of death. In the end, this thin and tall young man used some unknown method to take the initiative and the battle points went into his pocket. 7 disciples of Clear Sky, I have no intention to be enemies with you. Clear Sky Construction is somewhat related to me. Hurry up and leave. The young man who looked like a farmer waved his hand. His eyes were still lowered as he looked at the pool of corrosive black water on the ground. What arrogance! Who do you think you are to have a relationship with Clear Sky Construction? Do you think you're a heavenly lord or a spirit sage? You make it sound like you're very old. The shortest of the 7 disciples of Clear Sky, the 5th brother, sneered. Why are you talking nonsense with this brat? Set up the formation and kill him. The 3rd brother was impatient. Do we need to set up a formation to deal with this kind of trash? You're making a mountain out of a molehill. The 4th brother was proud and arrogant. 4th brother, don't underestimate the guy who can make it here. The 3rd brother is right. Set up the formation and kill him. The sixth brother was calm and cautious. Clear sky formation. The eldest brother gave the order. The other six immediately spread out and stood in specific positions. They quickly set up the clear sky formation. This formation was specially created for the seven of them by the clear sky ancestor, the clear sky heavenly lord. It could be used to attack and defend and was very powerful. They had used this formation to kill many body integration stage fiendish cultivators who were causing trouble on Clear Sky Planet. The farmer faced the Clear Sky formation and his expression didn't change at all. He only frowned slightly as if there was a problem that he couldn't solve. Go. The eldest brother gave the order again. The seven of them attacked the farmer from all directions at the same time. Each of them was holding a profound heaven superior grade clear sky sword. Just as the seven of them moved, the farmer's lowered eyes flashed and the ground shook violently. The farmer quickly retreated dozens of meters. Want to run? No way. The third brother shouted. However, before he finished speaking, a black shadow scuttled out from the ground. A black arm covered in scales directly pierced through the third brother's throat. Before the other six could react, the third brother had already disappeared and went to the resurrection point. When the six of them saw the demonic creature that suddenly appeared, they were shocked. They instantly changed the direction of their attacks and attacked the demonic creature. Damn it! The seventh brother cursed in anger and stabbed his sword. Whoosh! The sword stabbed nothing. The demonic creature disappeared. The seventh brother lowered his head and the arm covered in scales pierced through his chest. The seventh brother widened his eyes and looked at the scene in disbelief. His body disappeared and his battle points decreased by half. The demonic creature disappeared again at an astonishing speed. The remaining five were a little flustered. Before they could do anything, the fourth brother's head was separated from his body and he went to the resurrection point. The sixth brother rushed forward crazily, but a demonic claw pierced through his abdomen. The other four saw that something was wrong. The eldest brother shouted, "Oh no, it must be a high-level demonic general. Run, we are no match for it." 3 of the 7 disciples of the Green Cloud were killed in the blink of an eye. The 4 of them were not in the mood to fight anymore. Ignoring the farmer, they turned around and ran. However, the 4 of them did not run far before the demonic creature caught up with them and killed them one by one. The 7 disciples of the Green Cloud went to the resurrection point before they had time to show the power of the Green Cloud array. If there were other people present, they would be shocked by the demonic creature's terrible power. The strength of the 7 disciples of the Green Cloud array was enough to rank in the top 10 of the Tianjiao list, but they could not withstand the demonic creature's attack. If Li Daochong saw this scene, he would also be surprised. The reason why he was surprised was not the demonic creature's terrible power. It was that this demonic creature was exactly the same as the demonic python he fought in the Black Prison. The farmer youth retreated quickly not to avoid the 7 disciples of the Green Cloud array, but to avoid the demonic python that jumped out from the ground. At this moment, the farmer youth stood in place and had no intention to escape. He looked at the void where the 7 disciples of the Green Cloud array disappeared with a bored face and shook his head. If you had listened to me, you wouldn't have to go to the resurrection point. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 8:12. After killing the 7 disciples of Green Cloud, the demon absorbed large amounts of battle merits, and its body changed slightly. Its body swelled up and its claws became sharper. Its black fingernails were like sharp spikes. The demon licked its lips and a satisfied look flashed across its eyes like it had eaten its fill. Then, the monster looked at the young farmer standing there. Light flashed in its dark red eyes, like a tiger that had found its prey. Who? The demon disappeared into thin air. It looked like it disappeared, but it was just too fast, so fast that the naked eye couldn't see it. Even normal cultivators wouldn't be able to see it. The farmer's lips curled up. He reached out and a silver spear appeared in his hand. See. The spear was like a dragon as it pierced through the air. Poochie! There was a clear piercing sound. In the empty area in front of the farmer, the body of the demon appeared. The silver spear stabbed into the demon's chest and came out from its back. The demon's dark red eyes were filled with disbelief as it looked down at its chest. The scales that were comparable to Heaven Xian high-grade magic gold were pierced through like paper in front of that unassuming spear. Kong! The demon roared into the sky, its claws burning with flames as it clawed at the farmer. But the farmer didn't dodge, holding the spear with one hand and grabbing the demon's wrist with the other. He used strength and the demon's expression twisted. Its wrist was actually crushed by the farmer. The demon's rage turned into terror. It didn't even think about it as it turned around and ran. It didn't care about the wound on its chest. However, just as it ran 2 steps, a terrifying spiritual pressure spread from behind. The long spear penetrated the demonic creature's head, and the brilliance of the penetrating rainbow swallowed up the demonic creature in flames. If the 7 disciples of Green Cloud saw this scene, they would probably pee their pants. The 7 of them couldn't even take 1 hit from the demon, and the demon couldn't even take 1 hit from the farmer. Of course, when that silver spear appeared, the 7 disciples of Green Cloud would immediately recognize the true identity of this unassuming country bumpkin. He was Han Po, who was ranked first on the Heaven's Pride ranking. That spear was his life treasure, the intermediate celestial treasure heaven and earth spear. If the 7 disciples of Green Cloud knew that they were facing this monster just now, they would definitely be cursing in their hearts, and even have thoughts of committing suicide. After killing the demon, Han Po's battle merits increased by 500,000. I actually have so many battle merits. No wonder the demon was so strong that even the 7 disciples of Green Cloud couldn't take 1 hit from it. Han Po put away the heaven and earth spear and muttered to himself. Just as Han Po was about to leave this place to find his next target, a voice sounded by his ear. Han Po, inform the talisman of 10,000 spirit talisman Yu Qinghe and kill all of them. If you meet Li Daoist, don't hold back. Kill him every time you see him. Han Po was stunned. This voice belonged to his master, Spirit Sovereign Wanmiao. Master, why? Master used up a lot of energy to transmit the message, so I don't have time to explain. Jiuxuan that be *TCH's power of law is too strong. If I didn't use the level 30 talisman, I wouldn't be able to communicate with you. You only need to know that Ngun wants to take up more spots, so he did something in this competition. Spirit Talisman Wan Miao's voice became softer and softer until Han Po couldn't hear it clearly. Han Po's confused expression disappeared. Ngun's ambition isn't small. Since that's the case, then there's nothing to worry about. Space seemed to be pierced through as Han Po turned into a streak of light and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Li Daochong left the 6th Imperial Capital and flew towards the 5th Imperial Capital. The so-called Imperial Capital was actually more like a super safe zone. At least during the first round of the competition, it was a safe zone. It was still unknown whether or not the second round would still prevent battles. The distance between each Imperial Capital was extremely far. If one didn't have a powerful flying magic treasure or an energy-saving and speedy escape technique, one would be unable to escape. If one didn't have a flying talisman or a flying talisman, it was almost impossible to travel from one imperial capital to another. A rough estimate of the distance between the imperial capitals was about the same as the distance between planets in space. Li Daochong could reach a speed of 1,000,000 kilometers per hour without using the 1,000-sound escape. When using the 1,000-sound escape, he could reach a speed of 20 million kilometers per hour. This speed was ranked at the top of the pyramid among all the participants. However, once he used the 1,000-sound escape, his spirit qi would be greatly depleted. No matter how much Li Daochong's cultivation base increased, the 1,000-sound escape would increase his maximum speed by 20 times. He could only maintain it for half an hour before Li Daochong would be exhausted. Fortunately, Li Daochong didn't take any of the items after killing so many elite. Instead, he took as many recovery pills as he could find. This was to increase his endurance. There were thousands of recovery pills. With sufficient resources, Li Daochong flew as fast as he could while using the 1,000-sound escape. Every half an hour, Li Daochong would rest for a while, and the rest would not exceed an hour. Even if he took recovery pills, he wouldn't be able to recover his spirit chi instantly unless it was a super recovery pill of 3 stars or above. The rarity of this thing was no less than an immortal-level treasure. Traveling 10 million kilometers in half an hour was already a terrifying speed. Even so, Li Daochong flew for 3 days and 3 nights and still didn't see the next imperial capital. It seemed like he didn't even see the borders. Li Daochong wasn't in a hurry. Along the way, he opened his divine telekinesis and scanned the area indiscriminately. He didn't miss any chance to find the silver bottle's aura. While Li Daochong was rushing, the Jiuxuan realm of the gods was surging with undercurrents. More and more participants from the Kuan Empire were being killed. Gradually, the participants from the Qiantsong Empire and the Yuqing Great Void Republic came to a consensus. The competition between them was easing. Although it wasn't completely gone, it was rare for them to fight to the death. Especially between geniuses, there was almost no head-on conflict. However, as soon as they encountered a participant from the Kuan Empire, they would immediately attack. The top 100,000 names on the leaderboard quietly changed. Originally, Kuan occupied at least 2/5 of the spots, while Qiantsong and Yuqing Great Void occupied 3/5. In just 3 to 4 days, at least 10,000 people from Kuan fell off the Jade Tablet leaderboard. Kuan's share of the top 100,000 fell to a little more than 1/5. Qiantsong and Yuqing Great Void occupied almost 4/5. The participants from Kuan Empire were all in danger. They didn't know why they became the target of public criticism. The other participants from the non-cultivation empires all stood on the side of the stronger forces. For a moment, the participants from the Kuan Empire were isolated. Although there were about 40 billion participants from the Kuan Empire, they occupied more than 20% of the total participants. However, they couldn't withstand the encirclement of the remaining 140 billion participants. The pocket-hunting dimension was compressed again and again. Other than the 9th imperial capital, which was in a slightly better situation, the participants from the other 8 imperial capitals were having a hard time. Due to Mo Chenxi's presence in the 9th imperial capital, the other participants didn't dare to be too presumptuous. However, there were still more people who secretly attacked the participants from the Kuan Empire. Li Daochong was still rushing and didn't know. He was getting closer and closer to the 5th imperial capital. At the foot of an inconspicuous mountain in the depths of the Devil Flame mountain range, Pan Jialuo and 2 gloomy-looking cultivators had just finished clearing the surrounding nether monsters. Pan Jialuo's strength had increased by several times compared to the time when he fought against Li Daochong in the revival competition. He had already consumed the spirit-bursting pill and used the forbidden technique passed down by the Pan family in ancient times to forcefully push his cultivation base to the half-step void refinement realm. In order to severely injure Li Daochong in this competition, Pan Jialuo didn't hesitate to go bankrupt and took out all of his savings. Although he was chased out of his family, he still had some savings. In order to increase his strength, he also hired 2 Night Death Warriors to increase his chances of survival. Other than assassins, Death Warriors were also part of the Night Death Warriors business. There was a fundamental difference between Death Warriors and assassins. Assassins only accepted missions while Death Warriors served one person as their master. What they sold was their time and loyalty. Within the time limit of purchase, They had to obey their master's orders unconditionally to ensure their master's safety. Once they encountered danger, they could sacrifice their own lives, but they had to protect their master's life. If their master had wings, it would be considered a breach of contract, and they wouldn't have to pay a single cent. Of course, the price of death warriors was more expensive than assassins. Of course, it also depended on the strength of the death warriors. Pan Jialua hired 2 peak divine transformation realm body refinement death warriors. As long as the 3 of them didn't encounter any genius contestants, their safety was basically guaranteed. Even so, Pan Jialua knew that he might not be a match for Li Daochong. The 2 great ancestors of the Pan family were so afraid of Li Daochong that they didn't hesitate to kick him out of the family. It was enough to prove that Li Daochong's strength was at least at the void refinement realm. Pan Jialua naturally wouldn't fight Li Daochong head-on. He used the forbidden technique, the Great Spirit Absorption technique, in exchange for Li Daochong's information. The Night Death Warrior's understanding of Li Daochong far surpassed everything in the outside world. After all, not long after Li Daochong woke up, they had been in contact with Li Daochong. If it wasn't for Chu Qianyue, the Night Death Warriors would have killed Li Daochong. Therefore, they knew Li Daochong's background better than the others. After Pan Jialua obtained information about Li Daochong, he immediately formulated a revenge plan. First, cooperate with Li Daochong's enemies. Second, analyze Li Daochong's weaknesses and exploit them. Pan Jialua had already completed the first step before entering the Jiuxuan divine realm. He found the Black Tortoise planet's Yi family. The Yi family that possessed the Black Tortoise bloodline. A branch of the Yi family had a fierce conflict with Li Daochong in the Shenghua Federation. The enmity between the 2 sides was almost irreconcilable. Later on, the Yi family had a falling out with their opponents in Engun and almost started a family war. Thus, the Yi family no longer cared about the Shenghua Federation branch. Pan Jialua had some friendship with a few of the younger generation of the Yi family. Both sides easily reached a consensus. The Yi family's strongest person of this generation, Yi Xuanwu, was the inheritor of the Black Tortoise bloodline. However, Pan Jialua had no way of getting close to a genius like Yi Xuanwu. However, Pan Jialua was still able to associate with the weaker members of the Yi family. Especially Yi Hong, who had a close relationship with the Shenghua Federation's Yi family branch. The 2 of them hit it off almost immediately. Yi Hong was in the early void refinement realm and could be ranked in the top 10 of the Yi family. Li Daochong did not have many weaknesses, but Pan Jialua still managed to see through them. Therefore, since entering the Jiuxuan divine realm, Pan Jialua had bribed a lot of spies to search for the whereabouts of the silver bottle. This card slave was Li Daochong's weakness. At the foot of the mountain, Pan Jialua carefully scanned his surroundings before entering a secret door. From the outside it looked like a mountain wall. After entering, there was a long and narrow passage that was about 10 meters long. At the end of the passage was a stone room. As soon as Pan Jialua entered the stone room and saw the silver bottle imprisoned in the spiritual formation, a gloomy smile appeared on his face. Yi Hong was meditating on a stone bed in the corner of the stone room. When he sensed Pan Jialua's arrival, he slowly opened his eyes with a hint of impatience between his brows. Brother Pan, more than 7 months have passed. In order to keep an eye on this girl, we have wasted a lot of time. Our ranking is terrible. Are you sure that we can use this girl to exchange for a lot of battle merits from Li Daochong? Brother Yi, this girl has been by that brat Li Daochong's side since she was young. She's most likely that brat's servant girl. Li Daochong definitely wouldn't ignore her. From the information I've received, Li Daochong had many conflicts with others over this girl. This shows how much he values her. Brother Yi, we're all men here. Don't you understand? Don't worry, I promise that I will definitely make Li Daochong obediently submit to me. Pan Jialua smiled sinisterly. This is the Jiuxuan divine realm. Aren't you afraid that the Jiuxuan's spiritual supremacy will find out? Yin Bottle gritted her teeth and asked. So what if they find out? We didn't do anything to you. We just imprisoned you. The rules of the competition did not say that we can't use this method. Pan Jialua said indifferently. Chapter 8:13. Yi Hong was skeptical about Pan Jialua's words. If he didn't know some things about Li Daochong, he wouldn't have believed Pan Jialua. Even if Pan Jialua bragged to the heavens, Yi Hong wouldn't do such a boring thing with him. Brother Pan, there is no life and death in the Jiuxuan realm. If we annoy Li Daochong, he might not need to save this inferior card slave. If he comes to settle accounts with us after the competition, the gains will not make up for the losses. As far as I know, Li Daochong is quite capable, Yi Hong said worriedly. Brother Yi, outside of the Jiuxuan realm, Li Daochong won't dare to touch us. From now on, that guy will have to kneel in front of me. Pan Jialua smiled sinisterly. Oh? Why is that? Yi Hong didn't understand and his eyes were full of doubts. Ha ha ha, Brother Yi, if I didn't have a backup plan, why would I ask you to join us? We are good brothers, so we should share our blessings together. Pan Jialua suddenly laughed. What backup plan? Can you tell me? Yi Hong continued to ask. It's nothing. I just used a little trick and placed a level 18-time explosion talisman on this girl's body. Pan Jialua smiled sinisterly. Yi Hong narrowed his eyes. Brother Pan, when did you place the time explosion talisman on her body? Pan Jialua didn't hide it and answered directly with a sinister smile. The Dark Knight doesn't only do killing business, but also other business. For this kind of trivial matter, you only need to pay 1 million high-grade spirit stones, and a lot of Void Refinement Realm assassins are willing to do it. In order to be foolproof, I paid 2 million high-grade spirit stones to hire an assassin at the peak of the Void Refinement Realm who is good at using iron puppet. When Li Daochong is not around, the assassin will release a spirit puppet the size of a mosquito and place the time explosion talisman on this girl's neck. Now, even the King of Hell can't save her, but as long as Li Daochong is obedient, I won't kill her, ha ha ha. Brother Pan, what a good plan! Yi Hong praised. In terms of strength, even if Pan Jialua ate the spirit explosion pill and used the forbidden technique, he was still inferior to Yi Hong. However, in terms of treachery, Pan Jialua was far superior to Yi Hong. Otherwise, Yi Hong wouldn't have been tricked into becoming a goalkeeper. Based on Yi Hong's strength, if he were to hunt outside, he would at least be ranked in the top 10,000. However, right now, he was below 1 billion. However, after hearing Pan Jialua's words, Yi Hong immediately felt reassured. No matter what, the security was much greater than before. Then, when does Brother Pan plan to have a showdown with Li Daochong? Yi Hong continued to ask. There's no need to rush. There are still 5 months until the end of the first round of tests. It won't be too late to wait for another 3 months. No matter what, we have to get that brat to give us more battle achievements, right? Pan Jialua said sinisterly. What if that brat Li Daochong doesn't do well and doesn't accumulate much battle achievements? That would be a scam, Yi Hong said, not very optimistic. That won't happen. Based on my judgment of Li Daochong's strength, it shouldn't be a problem for him to accumulate 300,000 to 400,000 battle achievements. Right now, both of us have close to 50,000 battle achievement. As long as Li Daochong can give us 100,000 battle achievements, it'll be more than enough. With 100,000 battle achievements, we can enter the next round. Brother Yi, to be honest, it'll be good enough if we can enter the second round, Pan Jialua said. That's true. Yi Hong curled his lips and had to accept this reality. In the second round, if they wanted to take another step forward, they could forget about it if they didn't have abnormal strength. At that time, all schemes and tricks would be futile in the face of absolute strength. Stop dreaming. You want to enter the second round with just the two of you? Bah, not only will my big brother Dao Chong not give you any battle achievements, he will also beat you until you piss your pants. Just as the two of them were talking happily, Silver Bottle spat and said with disdain, "Buzz buzz." As soon as Silver Bottle's voice fell, sparks of electricity flashed across her body and a pained expression appeared on her delicate face. The Thunder Prison spiritual formation was an extremely domineering imprisonment spiritual formation. Damn brat, I'll let you have a taste of spiritual lightning. Pan Gelua glared at Silver Bottle and pressed down hard on a jade tablet in his hand. The jade tablet was the driving device for controlling the Thunder Prison spiritual formation. Silver Bottle's words enraged Pan Gelua, and he pressed down hard on the button to trigger the spiritual lightning. The spiritual formation flashed and spiritual lightning poured into Silver Bottle's body. Silver Bottle's face was deathly pale and she bit her lip until it bled, but she didn't make a sound. Bang bang bang, buzz buzz. Pan Gelua was extremely vicious and controlled the power of the spiritual lightning just right. It could make Silver Bottle, who was at the soul formation stage, suffer a lot, but it wasn't enough to make her die and go to the resurrection point. A few minutes later, Silver Bottle's vision turned black and she fainted. Only then did Pan Gelua put down the jade tablet in his hand. Yi Hong looked at the unconscious Silver Bottle and a trace of greed appeared in his eyes. But it was fleeting and he buried the evil thoughts deep inside. In this Joshuan God realm, Yi Hong didn't dare to act recklessly. Before the first round started, Immortal Spirit Venerable had already warned everyone. If anyone did anything that went against the rules, they would be disqualified and blacklisted. No matter how much Yi Hong lusted after beauties, he didn't dare to do anything in this Joshuan God realm. From the first time he saw Silver Bottle, Yi Hong was already drooling over her beauty. Never in his dreams would he have thought that this card slave made by Li Daochong's side would be so beautiful. However, card slaves had a very strange bloodline. Other than not having a spiritual vein and being unable to cultivate, they were extremely outstanding in all other aspects. There were almost no flaws. Even if a card slave woman's appearance wasn't enough to outshine the moon and put flowers to shame, it was definitely enough to make people smell good. But this card slave girl in front of him was the best of the best. Her beauty couldn't even be described as stunning. What was even more amazing was that she actually had spirit-severing cultivation. Yi Hong couldn't understand how a card slave could have spirit-severing cultivation. In the long river of history, this had never happened before. There were no records of card slaves being able to cultivate to spirit-severing stage. The human race had always thought that card slaves weren't from the human race, but some other race. But the Great Cultivation Era proved that card slaves were humans through and through. Yi Hong's gaze lingered on Silver Bottle for a while before he reluctantly looked away and said to Pan Gelua, "Brother Pan, this girl has a lot of good stuff on her. How's your research on that spirit magnetic gun?" Pan Gelua's eyes flashed with a trace of undetectable dark light. The spirit magnetic gun found on Silver Bottle's body was a top-grade spirit magnetic gun. Its power was shocking. Not long ago, he tested it and directly killed a general-level Joshuan netherworld creature. He had to use the few bullets he had sparingly. This was his trump card to pass the second round. Of course, he couldn't tell Yi Hong. That spirit magnetic gun is powerful, but it's only a mid-grade spirit magnetic gun at the spirit-severing stage. It can deal with spirit-severing stage cultivators, but not void-refining stage cultivators. If you want it, you can take it. I can exchange it with you. Just give me those spirit talismans, Pan Gelua said generously. Then, Pan Gelua took out the spirit magnetic gun to exchange with Yi Hong. "Brother Pan, I'm curious. I don't want to exchange it with you. We had an agreement at the beginning. Are you going back on your words?" Yi Hong was slightly dissatisfied. When he heard that it could only deal with spirit-severing stage cultivators, Yi Hong immediately lost interest. The 5 spirit talismans he took were all level 19 spirit talismans. They were powerful and could pose a great threat to void refining stage cultivators. Below the late stage of void refining stage, no one could resist them. Yi Hong also planned to use them in the second round. On the surface, the two cooperated happily, but they both had ulterior motives. Under Li Daocheng's training, Yin Ping had a great breakthrough in combat, but she still lacked experience. She fell into Pan Jialuo's trap. Not only was she captured alive, but her storage ring was also cracked and the items inside were taken out and distributed. Fortunately, this was the Jiuxuan Divine Realm. They only took the items reflected by the Jiuxuan Divine Light. The real items were naturally still on Yin Ping's body. However, in the Jiuxuan Divine Realm, the two of them could use these items without restraint. The spirit magnetic gun was the one that Li Daocheng gave Yin Ping for self-defense. It was called Silence. On the Black Tree Star, Li Daocheng had used this gun to kill one of the 12 Demon Kings by Sakyamapa's side, Yama Demon King's dead soul clone. Another 2 days passed in the Jiuxuan Divine Realm. On this evening, Li Daocheng used the 1,000 sound escape to fly through the sky. Suddenly, Li Daocheng slowed down. He retracted the 1,000 sound escape and slowly came to a stop in the void. Li Daocheng looked toward the southwest. He finally sensed a large number of auras thousands of kilometers away. There was spirit energy and also Jiuxuan dark qi. The aura of the dark qi produced by the Jiuxuan Divine Realm was different from any aura of the Hades. The contestants named it Jiuxuan dark qi. We should have entered the farming area of the 5th Imperial Capital, Li Daocheng muttered to himself as he looked into the distance. After flying for 5 days and 5 nights, the distance between the Imperial capitals was far greater than he had imagined. Boom! Crack! Clang clang! At this moment, a blinding flash of light came from the distant horizon. After a while, an earth-shattering explosion followed. Then, as if space was being torn apart, a series of muffled sounds erupted. Chapter 8:14. Li Daocheng sensed 2 majestic auras colliding with each other. There were contestants fighting. Moreover, they were 2 extremely powerful contestants. The auras that these 2 people were emitting were shockingly powerful, covering an area of more than 1,000 kilometers. Li Daocheng was very far away from the scene, but he could still clearly feel the airflow. These 2 were the strongest people that Li Daocheng had met since he entered the Jiuxuan Divine Realm. They were even stronger than Lu Yuandao and Du Ruo in the 6th capital. As for Ngu, it was needless to say. For some reason, the contestants in the 6th capital were generally not very powerful. It was strange that there were a few abnormal people in the other capitals, but not in the 6th capital. Li Daocheng touched his chin thoughtfully. Could it be that the Jiuxuan Spirit Sage sensed my actual combat strength, so there are no other abnormal people in the 6th capital? Li Daocheng felt that this was very likely. After all, the Jiuxuan Spirit Sage had seen him before. With her perception, she could see through Li Daocheng's strength at a glance. The Jiuxuan Divine Realm was completely under the control of the Jiuxuan Spirit Sage. She would not let the 6th capital be so weak for no reason. The only possibility was that she had taken Li Daocheng into consideration. There was no one else who knew Li Daocheng's true strength except for the Jiuxuan Spirit Sage. At this moment, the strength of the 2 people fighting was beyond imagination. Li Daocheng could not let his guard down. Li Daocheng's curiosity was piqued. He wanted to see how strong he and the abnormal people in the spirit realm were. A brilliant light flashed in Li Daocheng's eyes. Then, his silhouette disappeared in a flash. He activated the 1,000 sound escape technique and sped towards the location of the incident. In less than 10 seconds, Li Daocheng had arrived at the area where the 2 auras were fiercely colliding. He was only 10 kilometers away from the center of the battle. There were at least a few thousand contestants gathered in this area. Everyone was scattered in different areas, watching the center of the battle with vigilance. Even though they were watching from such a distance, they were still very careful. The shock waves from the battle were still very dangerous to them. Many people even put up protective shields or spiritual hyland. Li Daochong scanned his surroundings and continued flying towards the center of the battle. He did not activate the 1000 sonic escape again. How could it be satisfying to watch from so far away? Naturally, it was better to get a closer look. Hey brother, it's better if you don't get too close. Be careful not to get caught in the crossfire. A young cultivator with a kind face kindly reminded Li Daochong when he saw that he was about to fly in. Do you know who is fighting? Li Daochong turned to look at the cultivator and asked. Are you from another imperial capital? You don't even know who is fighting? The cultivator looked at Li Daochong in surprise. Yes, I'm from Imperial Capital Number 6. Li Daochong did not hide anything and said bluntly. No wonder, brother, don't get any closer. The two people fighting are Wei Jinpeng, ranked 3rd on the Qian-Tsang Empire's Prodigy Leaderboard, and Magic Blue Yarn, ranked 4th on the Enkuan Empire's Prodigy Leaderboard. Two super freaks, the cultivator introduced. Oh, so it's them, Li Daochong pretended to know. Isn't that so, brother? Now that I've mentioned it, you should know why I told you not to get any closer. Oh right, which country are you from, brother? The cultivator suddenly thought of something and asked again. You can say that I'm from Enkuan, Li Daochong replied. He was representing Kunlun in the competition, so naturally, he was considered Enkuan. Then all the more reason to not get any closer. Magic Blue Yarn looks like she's fighting Wei Jinpeng one-on-one, but she's actually surrounded. The young cultivator looked at Li Daochong with less caution. Surrounded? What do you mean? Could it be that Magic Blue Yarn has angered the crowd? Li Daochong was puzzled. How's that possible? Magic Blue Yarn Enkuan is famous for her good temper and beauty. How could she have angered the crowd? For some reason, the contestants from the Qian-Tsang Empire and the Yuqing Taishu Republic have been targeting Enkuan's contestants. Enkuan's contestants haven't been having a good time these past 2 days. Many of them have been beaten to the point that they don't dare to leave the safe zone, so they can only wait in the capital. The cultivator replied with a confused expression. Oh? Is that so? So you're also a Enkuan cultivator? Li Daochong continued asking. Yes, I'm Chun Fulin, from the Enkuan Empire. I'm from the Chun Fulin Construction Company. If it weren't for the three of you, I wouldn't even dare to take half a step out of the capital, Chun Fulin nodded. Beside Chun Fulin, there were 3 other contestants, 2 men and 1 woman. Their cultivation levels were not low. All of them were at the early void refinement realm. Their actual combat strength should be higher than that. Chun Fulin was also at the early void refinement realm. With the 4 of them together, their combat strength was needless to say. Ordinary contestants definitely wouldn't dare to get close to them, let alone attack them. If one didn't have the strength to be ranked in the top 20 of the Heaven's Chosen role, trying to cause trouble for the 4 of them would be equivalent to giving away battle merits. Li Daochong had already seen through Chun Fulin's cultivation level. If it weren't for the latter's extraordinary strength, he wouldn't have bothered to talk to him. Because Li Daochong had used the 1000 sound escape art, when he appeared in this area, his chi wasn't weak either. He maintained the appearance of a half-step void refinement realm cultivator. Similarly, if it weren't for Li Daochong's extraordinary strength, Chun Fulin wouldn't have bothered to make such an unnecessary move. Chun Fulin found Li Daochong unfamiliar. In the past 2 to 3 months, all the contestants in the capital had started to move around. Contestants who were able to travel such a long distance were all outstanding individuals. Without such skills, how would they dare to take up the porcelain job? Chun Fulin also took the initiative to remind Li Daochong with the mentality of giving it a try. Needless to say, he really bumped into one of his own. Currently, all the contestants from Kuan Empire were united. If they didn't, they would be wiped out by others. Therefore, they felt a sense of familiarity when they saw one of their own. After knowing that Li Daochong was from Kuan Empire, the vigilance in the eyes of the three people floating behind Chen Fulin disappeared. Among the three people with Chen Fulin, the only female cultivator was Wang Ling. She was a spell cultivator. As for the other two, one was Chen Fujie, Chen Fulin's cousin. He was also a combat cultivator. The other one was Lu Dan. He came from a big aristocratic family and was a pure sword cultivator. During the ancient times, sword cultivators were once unparalleled. 8 out of 10 cultivators were sword cultivators. Later on, sword cultivators gradually declined and the cultivation world became more and more diversified. Sword cultivators became fewer and fewer. Currently, they were less than 7% of the population. "Brother, what's your name?" Lu Dan immediately asked. "I'm Li Daochong. I'm from Kunlun." Li Daochong reported his name. Li Daochong, did Kuan Empire's contestant from Kingdom Number 6 get ganged up on as well? Wang Ling looked at Li Daochong curiously. Wang Ling had been secretly staring at Li Daochong ever since Li Daochong appeared. She felt like she had seen him somewhere before, but his face wasn't very clear. After hearing the name, Wang Ling's eyes twitched slightly and she immediately recalled. Wasn't Li Daochong the foreign cultivator from Shenghua Federation who caused quite a commotion before the competition? He was chosen by Kunlun to represent them in the competition. This Li Daochong was different from the rumors. He didn't seem like a useless person. The speed at which he flew over just now was really shocking. It definitely wasn't something that could be done by any random person. Moreover, this guy had delicate features and was handsome and sunny. He was Wang Ling's type. No matter what the rumors said on the spiritual net, this guy was still a man that even the Jiuxuan Spirit Lord was tempted to meet. It was impossible to say that he didn't have some ability. Wang Ling wasn't young anymore. She was already 35 years old. She was at the age when a female cultivator with decent strength would want a suitable dual cultivation partner. The three beside her didn't really fit her taste, but this Li Daochong was not bad. As for strength, he was slightly weaker than the three of them. However, he was good-looking. So what if his strength was slightly weaker? This I'm not sure. When I left Kingdom Number 6, there wasn't such a situation. Li Daochong glanced at Wang Ling and replied. That's right. You left Kingdom Number 6 at least a month ago. The distance between the kingdoms is very far. It would take at least 1 or 2 months to travel. No wonder you're not sure. Li Daochong, right now in Gun's survival space is very tight. It's very disadvantageous for you to fight alone. If you're not careful, you might not be able to pass the first round. That would be a waste. Since you're new here, why don't you join us? We can take care of each other. With our strength, I don't think anyone would dare to provoke us. Wang Ling suggested. No, I have something important to do. I'm just passing by. I sensed that there was a strong guy fighting and came to take a look. I'll leave soon. Li Daochong politely declined. I see. That's a pity. Wang Ling was slightly disappointed. Brotherly, if you're in a hurry, then I won't waste your time. It's safer to take a detour from the north. Chen Fulin immediately said. Brother Chen, thank you for the reminder. Goodbye. Li Daochong immediately said. You're welcome. We're all on the same side after all. Chen Fulin said politely. After saying goodbye, Li Daochong turned around and flew towards the center of the battlefield. Chen Fulin wanted to call out to Li Daochong when he saw him, but he was gone in the blink of an eye. Chen Fulin, look at him. His cultivation base is slightly weaker than yours, but he's not afraid of the aftermath of the battle. You guys, on the other hand, stayed so far away from the battle with a bunch of Yuanian contestants. What a coward. Wang Ling rolled her eyes at Chen Fulin. I'm just thinking for everyone's sake. I want to avoid unnecessary trouble. Chen Fulin explained. "TSK, then you guys stay here. I'll go closer to take a look. Magic Blue Yarn is still one of our end gun people. If they really want to gang up on her, I'll go all out and help her. Otherwise, I'll be too cowardly. Do you think the end gun empire is afraid of them?" Wang Ling had been holding back for a long time. She hated cowardly male cultivators the most. If Chen Fulin didn't hold her back, she would have already gone closer to take a look. With that, Wang Ling had already flown away. If Chen Fulin and the other two cowered there, the men would be embarrassed. They didn't say anything to each other and followed her. Li Daochong entered the 10-kilometer radius in an instant. When he was 30 kilometers away, there were about a few hundred people. The number of spectating contestants had obviously decreased by a lot. The number had dropped to a few dozen people. Their strength was obviously 2 or 3 levels higher than the outermost area. Even the weakest of them was in the late stage of soul formation. Li Daochong didn't stop and continued to head towards the center of the battle. When the spectators saw someone approaching, they could only glance curiously and continue to watch the battle. Wang Ling followed Li Daochong. She thought that he would stop at this area. Unexpectedly, he didn't seem to have any intention of stopping. "Li Daochong, don't go any closer," Wang Ling reminded him telepathically. The previous distance was indeed a little too cowardly with their strength. Now that they were here, it was just right. If they went any further, it wouldn't be courageous, it would be reckless. Li Daochong's attention was completely attracted by the battle between Magic Blue Yarn and Wei Jinping. He couldn't care less about Wang Ling's telepathic message. There were only 4 people within a 3-kilometer radius of the center of the battle. The 4 of them ignored the powerful aftershocks that were constantly coming at them. Wang Ling was angry that she couldn't stop Li Daochong. She thought that she was more powerful than Li Daochong. If he wasn't afraid, why should she be afraid? Besides, Jiuxuan wouldn't die in the divinity. Why should she be afraid? Therefore, Wang Ling was obsessed and followed him. Chapter 8:15. By the time Chen Fulin and the other 2 arrived, Wang Ling had already followed Li Daochong to the center of the battle. Chen Fulin hurriedly called out to Wang Ling via telepathy, but she didn't seem to hear him at all as she followed Li Daochong further and further away. Is this Wang Ling a love-struck fool? She's so excited to see a young male cultivator that she can't wait to jump into his arms, Lu Dan said with a sour expression. Chen Fulin didn't dare to move forward and could only watch Wang Ling leave. Li Daochong sped all the way and soon arrived within 3 kilometers of the center of the battle. There were a total of 4 contestants in this area, and each of them was at the mid-stage of the void refinement realm. They did not gather together. Instead, they were separated in the void. However, 3 of them stood in the same direction, while the last one floated alone in the opposite direction. Li Daochong was slightly curious. The 4 of them stood in the void calmly, and the terrifying aftermath of the battle didn't affect them at all. It was as if a gentle breeze was blowing on their faces. Not only was there no danger, but it was also cooling. Li Daochong's appearance also attracted the attention of the 4 of them, and they all glanced at him inadvertently. The fact that he could get close to this place already explained everything. Even if he couldn't reach the top of the genius roll, he wasn't far from it. Wang Ling followed behind with a strange expression on her pretty face. She was actually able to reach this place unscathed. The aftermath of the battle isn't as powerful as I thought, Wang Ling thought to herself. She found her previous caution even more ridiculous. Although she didn't feel any danger, Wang Ling still used all her defensive trump cards. She didn't need to use Spiritual Highland, a mid-grade mystic heavenly robe, an automatic spiritual magnetic shield, and a level 17 guardian spirit talisman that was ready to be activated at any time. With these 4 layers of protection, Wang Ling's nervous mood was slightly relieved. Do you know where those 4 people came from? Just as the stone in Wang Ling's heart was lifted, she heard Li Daochong's question. Wang Ling glanced at Li Daochong in confusion. So this guy knew that she was following them. These 4 guys are really something. They're all freaks on the prodigy roll of their respective empires. The one on the east is our Kuan Empire's 9 stars spirit array, Xiong Qiguang. He's ranked 7th on the prodigy roll. The 3 on the west are Zhongli Qiongchang from the Qian Song Empire's Wuji Mining. She's ranked 5th on the genius roll of Qian Song Empire. However, it's said that she hasn't been out for the past 2 years, which caused her ranking to drop. She was previously ranked 2nd on the genius roll. The other male cultivator is called Long Zitian. It's said that he's a descendant of the ancient dragon clan and also from the Qian Song Empire. He's ranked 4th on the genius roll. The other male cultivator is even more incredible. He's the 2nd on the Jade Clear Taishu Republic's genius roll, Feng Qichang. His demon sealing spear is indestructible and extremely lethal. It's said that countless demon generals have died in his hands. A few demon kings have also been injured by his spear. Hearing Wang Ling's introduction, Li Daochong's gaze moved slightly. He couldn't help but linger on Feng Qichang for a while. This person didn't need Wang Ling to say anything. Li Daochong could feel an unparalleled pressure from his aura. He was obviously restraining his aura at this time, but even so, he could still feel a different kind of spiritual pressure. If it weren't for the overly dazzling aura from the battle between the 2 freaks, this Feng Qichang would be able to defeat everyone just by standing there casually. Even without exchanging blows, Li Daochong could sense a sense of danger. Li Daochong hadn't had this kind of feeling for a long time. The last time it happened was on Blackwood Star. After that, it never appeared again. When he saw the Jiuxuan spirit sage, he didn't feel a sense of crisis. After Wang Ling finished speaking, she couldn't help but shiver. Her mood, which had just calmed down, rose to her throat again. If she didn't say it, she wouldn't have known. Now that she said it, she was frightened. Suddenly, a strong sense of regret rose from the bottom of Wang Ling's heart. But now, she couldn't advance or retreat. She had already bragged to Chen Fulin and the others, saying that they had no guts and were cowards. If she went back now, she would be laughed at. If she didn't say it in front of them, she would be ridiculed behind their back. Wang Ling didn't want to lose her tongue in front of those 3 guys. Boom! A deafening sound pulled Wang Ling's chaotic mind back. She saw a mushroom cloud rising into the sky. The shockwave attacked like crazy. Wang Ling was so scared that her face turned pale. She felt that she was going to be finished. What did it mean to suffer because of pride? She was now. Buzz. The shockwave was as intense as a wave. It pierced through the air and made a frightening sound. Everywhere it passed, it turned into ashes. Wang Ling closed her eyes and prepared to go to the resurrection point. A few seconds later, Wang Ling didn't feel any discomfort. It was just a strong gust of wind. She tried to open one of her eyes a little. Then, she completely opened her eyes. Wang Ling lowered her head and looked at herself. Then, she raised her hand and touched her body. She was intact. Strange. When did she become so strong that she could actually resist the aftermath of the battle of these monsters? Wang Ling glanced at the automatic spirit energy magnetic shield in front of her and suddenly understood. She couldn't help but mumble to herself. No wonder Grandpa repeatedly told me to bring this spirit energy magnetic shield that he personally made for me. It turns out that it's so strong. Fortunately, I didn't throw a tantrum and refuse to bring it. Otherwise, I would be in trouble. After the shockwave, Long Zitian, Feng Qichang, and Zhongli Qiongchang's eyes shone. A huge question mark rose in their hearts. Brother Feng, do you know that man and woman? Long Zitian was a little curious. No, Feng Qichang said coldly. Although he found it a little strange, he didn't care too much. Sister Zhongli, what about you? Long Zitian turned to look at Zhongli Qiongchang. Zhongli Qiongchang shook her head lightly. I've never seen them before. Where did these two guys come from? I have some impression of all the famous people in the three empires, but I've never seen these two before. Just now, the shockwave from the collision between magic blue yarn and Wei Jinping didn't even make them move, Long Zitian said in surprise. It's indeed a little strange. Could it be that they used a disguise technique? Zhongli Qiongchang's beautiful eyes had a strange look. She wanted to see through Li Daochong and Wang Ling, but she couldn't see anything. Zhongli Qiongchang's limitless art didn't only have the three limitless divine powers, but also the true extreme golden eyes. However, when he used it on the two of them, he did not discover anything strange about them. Who cares about them? If they're not N-Guns people, let them be. If they are, once Wei Jinping finishes off magic blue yarn, we'll send them to the respawn point, Feng Qichang said coldly. Brother Feng is right, hee, Long Zitian laughed. Magic blue yarn and Wei Jinping had already fought for more than 100 rounds, and neither of them could do anything to the other. Both of their strengths were similar, and they couldn't defeat each other after a long battle. Magic blue yarn was slightly anxious, but she wasn't worried that she couldn't outlast Wei Jinping. She was worried about the three people who were watching from the side. Feng Qichang, Zhongli Qiongchang, and Long Zitian. None of them were easy to deal with. On N-Gun's side, only Xiong Qiguang rushed over, and he alone was no match for them. Forget about the three of them, any one of them was not someone Xiong Qiguang could handle. These three people were stronger than Wei Jinping. Magic blue yarn was intercepted by the four of them. Fortunately, they didn't gang up on her, or she would have been sent to the respawn point. The four of them played rock-paper-scissors and decided to fight her one-on-one. Wei Jinping won the rock-paper-scissors game, and the other three watched from the side. Magic blue yarn gritted her teeth in anger, but she had no choice but to fight. There was no way she could escape. Zhongli Qiongchang and Feng Qichang both had immortal-level flying treasures, and their escape techniques were also very powerful. Magic blue yarn knew that things were not going well, and sent out a distress signal before the battle began. However, the only one who came to help was Xiong Qiguang. However, with the opponent's lineup, two more Nam Kuan top 10 powerhouses might not be enough to save them. Unless Mo Chensi came. She didn't know how the four of them got together, but with their lineup, other than the three prodigies, who else in the Jiuxuan celestial realm could be a match for them? Magic blue yarn's mentality was unstable, and the more she fought, the more passive she became. If it wasn't for the fact that her divine abilities were unique and had many passive divine abilities, she would have been defeated long ago. Wei Jinping, on the other hand, fought steadily and slowly wore down magic blue yarn. He was not in a hurry at all. Although the two of them fought fiercely and the scene looked terrifying, they did not use their trump cards. Magic blue yarn's nickname was the Phantom Fairy, and she was the treasure of the 9 stars spiritual array. She had a heaven-defying talent in spiritual arrays. Xiong Qiguang was also a prodigy of the 9 stars spiritual array. In terms of talent in arranging spiritual arrays, he was above magic blue yarn. However, magic blue yarn could arrange spiritual arrays on her body, and this was something that Xiong Qiguang and most other spiritual array masters could not compare to. This talent was born with fear, and it was also determined by her innate bloodline. It was very difficult for a pure human to withstand the backlash when a spiritual array was activated, so even if they arranged spiritual arrays on their spiritual bodies, they could not arrange too many of them. Magic blue yarn was different. She was not a pure human, but a hybrid between a human and a Yao. Yao's physical body was much stronger than that of humans. But even so, the Yao clan could only withstand 3 to 5 times more miniature spirit formations than the human clan. Any more and they would not be able to bear it. However, magic blue yarn was different. She could ignore the backlash when a spiritual array was activated. No matter how many miniature spiritual arrays were placed on her body, she would not feel any pressure. Magic Blue Yarn's bloodline had always been a mystery, and even spirit supremacies could not see through it. In the records of the human race there was no such bloodline of Yao. Chapter 8:16. Magic Blue Yarn was dressed in an ancient blue dress. She looked like a fairy who had descended from the immortal world. Her stunning face carried a seductive charm that most women did not have. At first glance, one would think that she was a nine-tailed demon. The mole at the corner of her eye that seemed to have been painted on was always captivating. Just looking at it would make one's heart itch. Coupled with those red phoenix eyes, she could steal one's soul without any pretense. Li Daochong had already noticed Magic Blue Yarn's appearance when he arrived in the nearby area. It was hard not to notice such a beauty. Li Daochong had seen many beautiful women in his life, and almost every female cultivator was not bad in terms of looks, and those around Li Daochong were all outstanding female cultivators. Each one was more beautiful than the other, more devastatingly beautiful than the other. If one had to make a comparison, according to Li Daochong's taste, Chu Qianyue, Cherry Blossom Gauze, and Hu Ling could be ranked in the top 3. Silver Bottle was now on par with those 3. Before Silver Bottle began to cultivate, her beauty could only be considered average. After gaining spiritual qi, Silver Bottle's appearance changed dramatically. In fact, her facial features did not change, but her temperament and aura were completely different. It was just that Silver Bottle's feminine aura was still a little stronger. Perhaps it was because she was still young. After all, she was more than 2 years younger than Li Daochong. This made Silver Bottle slightly less feminine. As time passed, she would naturally become more and more feminine. Besides the 3 above, the other women that Li Daochong came into contact with had to take a step back. There was no beauty pageant here, so let's not talk about it and get back to the point. Magic Blue Yarn's beauty was not inferior to those 3, but her style was different. Such beauty was one of the top in the entire human realm. If there was an immortal world, there would be fairies inside, but that was it. Among mortals, with such beauty, it was enough to make heroes from all walks of life kneel before her skirt and be at her beck and call. However, at this moment, Magic Blue Yarn's stunning appearance did not give her preferential treatment or pity. It was as if Wei Jinpeng had been injected with chicken blood as he launched a series of frenzied attacks without the slightest intention of holding back. Wei Jinpeng possessed the bloodline of the Golden Rock, and his bloodline concentration had reached 97%. This was an extremely terrifying number. This meant that he could almost exert half of the ancient Golden Peng's strength. A mature Golden Rock was equivalent to the late stage of the Crossing Calamity stage. Wei Jinpeng's magic treasure was a feathery prung saber. The saber was like a feather, more than a foot wide, completely golden in color, and 7 feet long. It was considered a long saber. The Golden Rock saber technique was the Wei clan's ancestral technique. It was extremely powerful in close combat. Golden Rock spreads its wings. Wei Jinpeng launched a few fierce attacks and suddenly unleashed a big move. Magic Blue Yarn's eyes widened, and a hexagram spiritual array appeared in her hand, instantly activating. A huge shield of light appeared. Boom! The saber struck the light shield with an earth-shattering sound, and the shock wave spread out in an instant. The light shield shattered, and the saber momentum disappeared. Just like that, the 2 of them flashed left and right in the void, constantly changing their positions like super-large flashing light. Magic Blue Yarn spent most of her time passively defending, and there were very few openings for her to counterattack. However, Wei Jinpeng seemed to be valiant and had the initiative, but every time he attacked, it was all bark and no bite. It did not cause any effective damage to Magic Blue Yarn. Magic Blue Yarn's defense was ridiculously strong with the help of the 1,000-spirit array, even if she could not react in time. All kinds of passive defensive spiritual arrays would automatically activate, blocking all attacks for her. Wang Ling had never seen a battle of this level. Every time they clashed, she was shocked. These two monsters, any one of them had the power to destroy the world. Wang Ling knew that if she were to go up against them, she would be sent to the resurrection point without being able to take a single hit. As a member of N-Gun, Wang Ling naturally sided with Magic Blue Yarn. She could not help but feel anxious when she saw that the latter was always on the defensive. Counterattack, hit him on the right side. There's a gap between that saber strike and the offensive spiritual array will be triggered. What a pity, Magic Blue Yarn, do your best. Wang Ling, who was engrossed in watching the battle unfold, could not help but speak out of nervousness. She could not wait to go up and help Magic Blue Yarn. Li Daochong stood on the side with his hands behind his back, calmly watching the battle in the void. Li Daochong, Magic Blue Yarn is going to lose if this continues. That Wei Jinpeng is really strong. He can actually force Magic Blue Yarn to the point where she can't even fight back. Wang Ling said worriedly. No, Magic Blue Yarn is going to win if this continues. Li Daochong said calmly. Win? How is that possible? Magic Blue Yarn obviously can't beat Wei Jinpeng. Wang Ling was confused. It's not that she can't beat him, it's just that Magic Blue Yarn's fighting style has always been like this, no matter who she fights against. She has countless spiritual arrays on her body, each of which is above level 20. I don't know if she has any trump cards or other divine abilities, but with so many spiritual arrays, it's enough to defend against most of the cultivator's attacks. We don't know if she has any hidden trump cards. Magic Blue Yarn's consumption of spiritual energy throughout the battle is minimal. The spiritual arrays on her body are all enchanted beforehand, so she doesn't need to inject any spiritual energy into them. On the other hand, Wei Jinpeng is consuming his own spiritual energy every time he attacks. If this continues, he'll run out of energy sooner or later. We should either end the battle quickly, or the longer it drags on, the higher the chance of Wei Jinpeng being killed. Li Daochong analyzed clearly. Is that so? Wang Ling was skeptical of Li Daochong's explanation. He believed it because Li Daochong's words were clear and logical, reasonable and well-founded. She doubted it because Li Daochong's ability was not as good as her, so he couldn't see anything. On the other side, Long Zitian, Feng Qichang, and Zhongli Qiongchang watched the battle expressionlessly, but there was a hint of doubt in their eyes. What the hell is Wei Jinpeng doing? Why isn't he using his trump card? If this continues, he's going to lose, Long Zitian said anxiously. No wonder Magic Blue Yarn is ranked 4th among N-Gun's Sky Prides. Coupled with the fact that she has a 10,000 spirit array that has almost no weaknesses, her actual combat ability is higher than her actual ability, Zhongli Qiongchang praised. This Wei Jinpeng is really an idiot. When fighting against Magic Blue Yarn, it's all about being steady, accurate and ruthless. In a battle of attrition, even Han Pa might not be a match for that woman, Feng Qichang said coldly. In his heart, he looked down on Wei Jinpeng, thinking that the guy was brainless. Wei Jinpeng was getting anxious when he couldn't break through after a long time. However, no matter what moves he used, he couldn't break through. He just couldn't break through Magic Blue Yarn's iron bucket formation. Damn this 10,000 spirit array. Don't tell me she really has 10,000 spirit arrays? Wei Jinpeng spat. As he said that, he slashed out dozens of times. The light from his blade shot out in all directions, piercing through the air like lightning. The golden image of the golden rock appeared behind Wei Jinpeng, projecting 1,000 feet high into the air. Various elements appeared around Magic Blue Yarn. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, rain, thunder, lightning, and ice. Sometimes they appeared alone, and sometimes they appeared together. Various forms of shields appeared one after another, endless. It blocked all of Wei Jinpeng's shockingly powerful and impenetrable attacks. Damn woman, if you have the guts, fight me head-on. What's the point of hiding in a spirit array? Wei Jinpeng was getting anxious. What a joke. If you have the guts, fight me with a spirit array. What's the point of brandishing weapons? Do you think you're a juggler? Magic Blue Yarn refused to back down. You've got a sharp tongue. Fine, I'll break your 10,000 spirit array today, Wei Jinping said angrily. I'll wait for you to break it. I'm just afraid that you won't be able to break it and will become a caged bird. Magic Blue Yarn sneered. Wei Jinping suppressed the anger in his heart, and the spirit energy around him increased by another level. The spirit energy was like the sea, drowning the entire void. The golden rock Dharma became more solid. Seeing this, Long Zitian smiled. This kid finally got it. He should have used the golden rock realm long ago. It's not too late now. The consumption isn't too high. Zhongli Qiongchang's beautiful eyes moved slightly. It's already too late. Feng Qichang suddenly said. Too late? Long Zitian was slightly stunned. He didn't understand why Feng Qichang would say that. Magic Blue Yarn's meteor swallowing magic array has been completed, Feng Qichang said indifferently. What? Long Zitian and Zhongli Qiongchang exclaimed at the same time. The two of them didn't see Magic Blue Yarn setting up the array at all. Feng Qichang glanced at the two of them from the corner of his eyes, and a hint of arrogance appeared on his face. The strength of one's eyesight was completely consistent with one's cultivation level. When one's cultivation level was high enough, one would naturally be able to see clearly. If one's cultivation level wasn't high enough, it would be useless even if one's eyes became as big as a gong. Magic Blue Yarn has been setting up the array since the beginning of the battle, Feng Qichang said calmly. Brother Feng, if you already knew, why didn't you say so earlier? That way Wei Jinping would have been prepared. Long Zitian was dissatisfied, but he didn't dare to show it. He tried his best to speak in a gentle tone. Dealing with N-Gun is one thing, but that's only limited to the tournament itself. It's not like we're going to fight him to the death. Remember, we only have one enemy, and that's Hades. Feng Qichang looked at Long Zitian sternly, with a warning look on his face. He continued, since we agreed on a one-on-one battle, then it can only be a one-on-one battle. Wei Jinping, if you're capable, then defeat Magic Blue Yarn by yourself. If you're not, then get lost to the resurrection point. Long Zitian could feel Feng Qichang's anger. He immediately smiled and said yes, and didn't dare to say another word. Long Zitian's ranking on the prodigy leaderboard wasn't low, but in front of Feng Qichang, who was ranked in the top 3, he didn't dare to hold back at all. Zhongli Qiongchang looked at Magic Blue Yarn, who was still struggling in the air, and a hint of fear appeared in his eyes. I still underestimated you, he thought to himself. As a female cultivator, Zhongli Qiongchang had been eyeing the position of the second female cultivator of the younger generation in the human realm for a long time. Why was it second and not first? It was simple. With Mo Chensi around, everyone else had to step aside. There was no need to think about the second place. The suppression in terms of talent was the most powerless thing to do. Therefore, all the female cultivators were fighting for the second place. Zhongli Qiongchang was no exception. She had always thought that she was the closest female cultivator to the second place. The only one who was qualified to compete with her was Zhu Xiaoyu. Now, it seemed that she had underestimated the situation. If Magic Blue Yarn was as Feng Qichang said, and had been setting up the 7 stars devouring formation since the beginning of the battle with Wei Jinping, then Magic Blue Yarn was truly terrifying. Oh right, I forgot to tell you too. We're also in the formation, Feng Qichang said calmly, as if he had forgotten something insignificant. What? Long Zitian was shocked. Hiss. Zhongli Qiongchang sucked in a breath of cold air, and the fear on her face became even stronger. This Magic Blue Yarn was not simple. Wei Jinping knew that if this continued, he would be exhausted to death. He released his aura, and his primordial spirit in his inner world let out a long roar, releasing a dazzling light. Then, a pair of golden wings grew behind his primordial spirit, which was exactly the same as the wings of the golden rock. Boom! Wei Jinpeng's spirit chi exploded, and the feathery pring saber in his hand buzzed. Magic blue yarn, I didn't expect you to force me to use my golden rock domain. I underestimated your 10,000 spells spirit formation. It's really useful to have external support in battle. However, in the face of absolute power, even the most profound tricks are useless. Sorry for waiting so long to let you go to the resurrection point. Wei Jinpeng's body emitted a dazzling golden light, which was as dazzling as the sun. A sharp cry from the ancient, desolate world broke through the air. The golden rock Dharma idol flew into the feathery pung saber, and Wei Jinpeng's body seemed to be burning. Magic blue yarn didn't say anything from beginning to end. She just floated in the air and quietly looked at Wei Jinpeng. Her beautiful and enchanting eyes flashed with a faint smile, which seemed to contain some sympathy. 7 stars devil swallowing array. Back then, a 7-star spirit venerable had specially developed a large-scale destructive spirit formation to deal with high-level devil generals. Its purpose was to allow cultivators who weren't strong enough to deal with high-level devil generals. Of course, this kind of spirit formation was also effective against cultivators, just as Wei Jinpeng was about to use his divine ability. 10,000 spells domain, 7 stars devil swallowing array, exterminate. Magic blue yarn shouted. Wei Jinpeng's body suddenly shook, and he couldn't move. His golden rock domain instantly became unstable. Impossible! Wei Jinpeng shouted in shock. With them as the center, a huge 7-pointed star pattern appeared in a 5-kilometer radius. Everything within a 10-kilometer radius was covered. Dark clouds rolled in the sky as if the end of the world had come. Wang Ling's face was blank. She had never thought that she would see the legendary 7-star devil swallowing array. Li Daochong touched his chin and looked at the huge 7-pointed star pattern below as if he was admiring a beautiful piece of art. The word interesting was written in his eyes. Chapter 8:17. The 7-star swallowing demonic array was already extremely powerful. The magic blue yarn had set it up in her infinite spell domain. Its power would be increased by several times from its original foundation. It could even kill the weaker demon king-level undead creatures. Even a turtle in a jar would not be able to escape. Wei Jinpeng, who was about to unleash his true power, was shocked. He desperately tried to regain his ability to move. However, under the lock of the infinite spell domain, Wei Jinpeng used all his strength to transform into the golden rock body, but it was useless. Although he could move, he was greatly restricted and could not move freely. Wei Jinpeng watched helplessly as meteors burning with 7 different types of spiritual fire fell from the rolling dark clouds in the sky. Except for the magic blue yarn. As long as it was a living creature in the 7-star swallowing demonic array, it would be the target of these meteors. The indiscriminate attack was perhaps the biggest weakness of the 7-star swallowing demonic array. Damn it! Wei Jinpeng cursed. Seeing that he could not dodge, he could only fight with all his might. Golden rock true flames. The golden flames on the feathery ping saber burned fiercely, enveloping Wei Jinpeng's entire body. The terrifying true flames melted the surrounding ground. With one slash, the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. The power was indeed shocking. Wei Jinpeng was, after all, one of the top 5 prodigies. How could he be weak? More than 10 meteors with a diameter of more than 10 meters were annihilated in the void by this attack and disappeared. Wei Jinpeng smiled as if to say, "You want to fight with me?" However, that smile froze as soon as it appeared. More meteors fell from the destroyed meteors. There were more than 10 of them, and they were even bigger than the previous ones. F***ck. Wei Jinpeng cursed in his heart. The feathery ping saber in his hand shot out rapidly, turning into a huge golden rock shadow that soared into the sky. Bang, 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 the falling meteors kept bombarding the golden rock shadow. Every attack made the golden rock tremble violently. Wei Jinpeng tried his best to control it, but a trace of blood leaked out from the corner of his mouth. Damn it, Wei Jinpeng cursed. Puff. Then, he spat out a mouthful of blood, and his aura instantly weakened. The meteors seemed to be endless. The golden rock could no longer withstand the bombardment of the meteorites and disappeared, leaving only the feathery Peng saber behind. A meteorite smashed into the feathery Peng saber and sent it flying. Wei Jinpeng still wanted to struggle, but he was already exhausted. Several meteorites smashed him into meat paste. They went to the resurrection point. While Wei Jinpeng was enduring the doomsday meteor shower, everyone sealed within the 7-star devil-swallowing array was having a hard time. Xiong Qiguang and Magic Blue Yarn were from the same sect. They were both geniuses nurtured by the 9 stars spirit array. Xiong Qiguang was naturally more familiar with his senior sister than the others, but he did not expect that he would also be trapped in the array. Damn it! The moment the 7-star devil-swallowing array appeared, Xiong Qiguang glanced at Magic Blue Yarn and screamed. Fortunately, Xiong Qiguang was also a spirit array expert. He quickly responded by activating more than 10 types of defensive spirit arrays and hiding himself inside. Wei Jinpeng was in the center of the array, so the attacks on the others were much weaker than his. Long Zitian did not hesitate and directly activated the power of his bloodline. Horns grew on his head and scales grew on his body. The defensive power of the Dragon clan's bloodline was the strongest among the demon clans. Of course, Long Zitian only inherited the dragon bloodline and was not a real dragon. This alone was not enough to withstand the meteorite. He took out a few more defensive Dharma treasures and finally calmed down. Zhongli Qiongchang was much calmer than Long Zitian. Although the 7-star devil-swallowing array was terrifying, it was not enough to pose a fatal threat to her. In this competition, there were very few contestants who were worth more than Zhongli Qiongchang. High net worth meant that they had many trump cards. He threw out a level 24 protective talisman, and Zhongli Qiongchang was immediately wrapped in a visible spirit magnetic field light shield. Upon closer inspection, the spirit magnetic field light shield had more than 30 layers, and the outermost layer was slightly distorted. This meant that there would be a huge deviation in the attack on Zhongli Qiongchang. Long Zitian and Zhongli Qiongchang, who reacted quickly, both looked curiously at Feng Qichang. They really wanted to know what kind of method this guy would use to withstand the meteorites. When the two turned to look, Feng Qichang was floating in the air, not moving at all. He did not use a single Dharma treasure, but only released his spiritual highland. The two looked at each other and saw the astonishment in each other's eyes. Was Feng Qichang going to use his physical body to withstand the meteorites that could kill high-level devil generals? Wei Jinpeng's golden rock bloodline made his physical body far superior to cultivators of the same level, but he was still smashed into meat paste. No matter how strong Feng Qichang was, how much stronger could his physical body be compared to Wei Jinpeng's? While the two were looking at Feng Qichang, he was looking in Li Daocheng's direction with a puzzled expression. At the same time, Feng Qichang's eyes flashed with slight astonishment. Feng Qichang had been paying attention to Li Daocheng and Wang Ling, who had appeared halfway. At this time, he saw that the female cultivator was in a hurry, sacrificing all her belongings to resist the meteorites. The young contestant in the cyan and purple robe did nothing. He didn't even use spiritual gang. At first, Feng Qichang thought that the other party did not know the power of the 7-star swallowing devil formation, and thought that he was ignorant and fearless. But when more than a dozen meteorites shot towards the purple-robed youth, Feng Qichang's expression changed greatly. These meteorites were changed direction by an invisible force, and fell to the ground beside the youth. One was a coincidence, 2, 3, 4, 10. After so many, it was hard to think that it was a coincidence. Who the hell was this kid? Feng Qichang was puzzled. How could he be a nobody with this kind of ability? Wang Ling, who was with Li Daochong, was still terrified after sacrificing all her belongings, and mentally sentenced herself to death. There was no way to run to the resurrection point. However, more than a dozen meteorites shot through the air, all passing by her quickly. Surprisingly, not a single one hit her. My luck is extraordinarily good. Wang Ling, who had survived the disaster, sighed in a rude tone for the first time. But as soon as she finished speaking, more meteorites came crashing down at her, faster than the previous ones, and the burning spiritual fire left long flaming tails. Being in the middle of it, she felt like the world was about to end. Wang Ling was so scared that her face turned pale, and she closed her eyes subconsciously. A few seconds later, apart from the terrifying muffled sounds of meteorites hitting the ground, it seemed that there was no tragedy. Wang Ling carefully narrowed her eyes. The meteorite shower was even denser, but strangely, no matter how dense it was, these terrifying meteorites could not hit her, and they all passed by her. Amazing, ha ha ha. Wang Ling could not believe her good luck. At this moment, Wang Ling finally remembered Li Daochong and turned to look. Holy shit, she was not the only one who was so lucky. And then there was Li Daochong. That kid didn't even take out a magic treasure. He was just hanging in the air. But the meteorites did not hit him. As long as it was someone in the 7 stars swallowing demonic array, they were naturally under magic blue yarn surveillance. She had no choice but to bring everyone in. The 7 stars swallowing demonic array was a large array, with a large range and a wide range of attack. At the same time, setting up a spiritual array had to be done carefully, and there could not be a single mistake. If it was light, its power would be reduced, and if it was heavy, the array would fail. Magic Blue Yarn, who had killed Wei Jinpeng and gained a lot of battle credits, was not happy at all, because the 7 stars swallowing demonic array seemed to be ineffective against other people. Xiong Qiguang did not say anything. After all, he was very familiar with the 7 stars swallowing demonic array, and it was normal for him to know how to defend against it. Magic Blue Yarn also knew this, which was why she had boldly included him. She did not care about whether the others lived or died. It would be best if Feng Qiguang and the other 2 people were killed together. As for the other 2 who had appeared halfway, she did not know them anyway, so it did not matter. However, these 5 people had all withstood the meteorite shower triggered by the 7 stars swallowing demonic array. This way, when the 7 stars swallowing demonic array stopped operating, she and Xiong Qiguang would have to face 5 powerful opponents. Originally, Magic Blue Yarn did not care about the 2 unfamiliar cultivators, but to be able to come out unscathed in the 7 stars swallowing demonic array, it was enough to show how powerful they were, and she had to take them seriously. Chapter 8:18. The meteor shower, which lasted for 10 minutes, destroyed everything within a 10-kilometer radius. The landscape changed dramatically. The ground was riddled with holes, and some areas were already rotten. The ground sank by hundreds of meters. This was the result of the Jiuxuan realm of the gods weakening the contestants' strength to a certain extent. At the same time, the Jiuxuan realm of the gods was far stronger than the outside world under the influence of the Jiuxuan law. Even so, under the destruction of the 7 stars swallowing magic array, it still caused devastating damage. However, Wei Jinpeng was the only one who died because he was in the center of the array and took more than 60% of the attack. The other 6 contestants were unharmed. After the 7 stars swallowing magic array disappeared, Magic Blue Yarn's expression turned serious. She was thinking about how to escape later. In the battle with Wei Jinpeng, Magic Blue Yarn had used up a lot of energy. Her own consumption might be negligible. However, the 10,000 spirit array was almost depleted. She had to replenish it before it could be used again. Huan Qingsha, I didn't expect your attainments in spiritual arrays to have reached such an unimaginable level. What a surprise. Unfortunately, spiritual arrays are consumables. Once you use them, they're gone. Of course, if you've prepared enough 10,000 spiritual arrays, that's also your ability. Let me have a taste of your 10,000 spiritual arrays. Long Zitian flew forward and said to Huan Qingsha with a smile. Without waiting for Magic Blue Yarn to reply, Xiong Qiguang had already rushed forward and said coldly, "You want to take turns fighting me? Long Zitian, your opponent is me." Long Zitian didn't care. He looked at Xiong Qiguang with contempt. "You're not worthy to be my opponent. However, if you want to die, no one will stop you." Xiong Qiguang's expression was calm, but there was a deep sense of fear in his eyes. Let's not talk about other things, just from the ranking alone, Xiong Qiguang was inferior to Long Zitian. Xiong Qiguang was ranked 7th in the Nam Kuan top 10. His actual combat strength might not even reach this rank. After all, Spirit Array Masters were not suited for on-the-spot battles. Instead, they were more suited for setting up traps, ambushes, and strategic deployment. The more powerful a spiritual array was, the more time it would take to set it up. It was almost impossible to release a powerful spiritual array in an instant. The fact that Magic Blue Yarn was able to set up the 7-star swallowing magic array in less than 10 minutes was already unbelievable. Xiong Qiguang was not as good as Magic Blue Yarn. Long Zitian was ranked 5th on the prodigy roll of the Jade Clear Great Void Republic. On paper, he was 2 ranks higher than Xiong Qiguang. Furthermore, Long Zitian's ranking had just been confirmed not too long ago. In other words, Long Zitian's true strength was ranked 5th in the younger generation of the Jade Clear Great Void Republic. Over and over again, anyone with a bit of common sense could tell that Xiong Qiguang was no match for Long Zitian. The latter also had a powerful dragon bloodline. He could fight both close and long range. Long Zitian also had a bit of black dragon bloodline. The dragon race was the royal family of the demon race, and black dragons were the legitimate royal relatives of the dragon race. Long Zitian could transform into a black dragon embryo in a short period of time. His attack power was extremely terrifying. Xiong Qiguang was wary, but he was not afraid. At this point, being afraid was useless. It was better to die than to flee at the last minute. Xiong Qiguang's eyes narrowed. He did not say anything else. The spirit chi in his body exploded, and a terrifying spirit pressure covered the sky. Weak was only relative to the top prodigies. To all the other contestants, Xiong Qiguang was a complete monster. The contestants dozens of kilometers away stretched their necks and looked into the distance. The 7-star swallowing demon array had really scared them. The contestants who were close to it all retreated. Chen Fulin and the other 2 saw the dark clouds rolling in the void and retreated without thinking. Brother Fulin, Wang Ling has probably gone to the resurrection point. Should we continue to watch the battle? These freaks are not from the same world as us. We might as well take advantage of this time to hunt. Lu Dan lost the desire to continue watching. He had come here to chase after Wang Ling, but she did not even put him in her eyes. A random stranger had come, and he had been seduced away. Lu Dan was very sullen. However, when he thought of Wang Ling being implicated and sent to the resurrection point, he felt a lot of comfort. Now Miss Wang should know who was the better choice. Lu Dan was anxious to go to the resurrection point to find Wang Ling. Let's watch a little more. This level of battle is not something that can be seen casually. Maybe we can learn something from it. Chen Fulin looked serious. I also want to watch a little more. Chen Fujie followed. Lu Dan pursed his lips and did not say anything. He could only continue watching. Now that the cultivators of the En Kuan Empire were everywhere, being alone was not a wise choice. The three of them were early-stage void refinement cultivators. They were not weak, and their divine senses were naturally strong. A distance of tens of kilometers was nothing to them. However, they could not sense Wang Ling's aura. This was because when the seven-star swallowing demon array was activated, Li Daochong concentrated his divine sense within a 30-meter radius, forming a wall of divine sense. Wang Ling happened to be within this range. As a result, Chun Fulin and the other two could not sense Wang Ling's aura. As for why they could not see her with the naked eye, it was because the dark clouds triggered by the seven-star swallowing demon array had not dissipated. The dust and smoke left behind by the attack were still there. Wang Ling and Li Daochong's position was just above the void where the dust and clouds were thicker. Therefore, from afar they could not be seen at all. As the three of them were talking, a strong wave of air rushed towards them. It swept across the sky and earth like a hurricane. It was actually a strong airflow caused by the diffusion of spiritual energy. What a strong spiritual pressure! Chen Fulin exclaimed. It's Xiong Qiguang, RN Kuan's crazy guy. I wonder which unlucky person is going to face him. Chen Fujie said excitedly. Other than Li Daochong and Wang Ling, who were still in the dust and smoke, the other five people, Magic Blue Yarn, Xiong Qiguang, Feng Qichang, Zhongli Qiongchang, and Long Zhaitian, all appeared from the dust and smoke. I think Xiong Qiguang is the unlucky one. As soon as Chen Fulin's voice fell, a disdainful voice came from the side. Turning around, three young cultivators in white robes appeared in the void 100 meters away from the three of them. Their uniform white robes were very eye-catching, and the word "Myriad Mystery" was embroidered on their chest. They were the participants of the Qian Song Empire's Myriad Mystery Talisman. It was said that the recent crusade against En Kuan's participants was initiated by them and the Jade Clear military. These three young cultivators had the same cultivation level as Chun Fulin and the other two. They were all in the early stages of the void refinement realm. If not, the three young cultivators in white would have attacked Chun Fulin and the other two long ago. However, it seemed like they could not get away with it, so they did not attack. However, the three of them had already sent out a signal, and reinforcements would arrive soon. By then, it would not be too late to kill the three En Kuan bastards in front of them. If they attacked now, the three young cultivators in white knew that they did not have an overwhelming advantage. They might even have to go to the resurrection point. What they wanted was an overwhelming victory, or else the losses would outweigh the gains. Chen Fulin glanced at the three of them and looked away. Following the principle of not causing trouble, he pretended that he did not hear anything. Lu Dan could not help but mock. If we're talking about unlucky people, Ungo from your Myriad Mystery Talisman should be the one. I heard that he was beaten up like a dog and had no idea what happened to him when he went to the safe zone. He's really unlucky. The three young cultivators in white's expression changed. They were so angry that their lungs were about to explode, but they could not refute. That's why all of you and Kuan's people have become street rats. Yes, Ngo was killed, but that person was despicable and shameless. He ambushed Ngo and even used some kind of ecstasy. Otherwise, how could he be Nge's opponent? Just as the three young cultivators in white were speechless, a white light flew over and a female cultivator suddenly appeared. The female cultivator was also wearing a white robe, but compared to the three young cultivators, there were more complicated patterns on it. The female cultivator's status was obviously higher than the three young cultivators. Senior Sister Lu. The three of them greeted the female cultivator in unison. Lu Ruyan, a 2-star spirit sequencer from the Myriad Mystery Talisman. Her status was not low, and she could be considered a genius. However, compared to the top 10 on the prodigy roll, she was still far behind. When the three young cultivators in white saw that their reinforcements had arrived, their attitude changed. The way they looked at Chun Fulin and the other two became arrogant. At this moment, Chun Fulin, Chun Fujie, and Lu Dan suddenly felt the atmosphere become tense. Even their breathing became a little irregular. Lu Rian was famous. She was in the middle stage of the void refinement realm. Although she was not a monster, her cultivation was already above the three of them. We don't know who's the rat yet. Just as Lu Rian finished speaking, a lazy male voice came from the other side. They saw a young man who looked like he was only 17 or 18 years old. He was holding his head with both hands and had a straw in his mouth. He walked over lazily in the air. Chun Fulin and the other two's eyes lit up. It was as if they had eaten a calming pill. The crisis was resolved in an instant. The person who came was Gun. Other than the Cloud Jade Robe, 9-star Spirit Array, and Ethereal Spirit Brain, the founder of the fourth largest self-cultivation enterprise, Fortune Pharmaceuticals. He was the last disciple of the Fortune Lord, Shimin Xiao. Lu Rian's pupils shrank. Her aura weakened by half. Shimin Xiao's age was a mystery. No one knew his actual bone age. However, since he was able to participate in the competition, it meant that his bone age was not over 60. As for whether he was 20, 30, 40, or 50, no one knew. Some things are destined from the beginning. A rat will always be a rat. You can't turn into a cat. Lu Rian said coldly. Is that so? Why do you want to turn into a cat? Is that all you have to do? So you're a cat? Shimin Zhao's eyes were half closed. He looked at Lu Rian lazily from head to toe. There was a hint of mockery in his eyes. Shimin Xiao, don't be so smug. You'll be crying soon. Lu Rian gritted her teeth. Miss, is this how you care about whether I'm crying or laughing? Shimin Xiao smiled lightly. Boom. An earth-shattering explosion interrupted the conversation. A mushroom cloud exploded from the center of the battle. It was a terrifying explosion. A giant black dragon shadow was projected in the sky. It was at least 1,000 feet long. Everyone looked at this scene in shock. Then, a bright light shone everywhere. It seemed that a terrifying spirit array was triggered. A dragon roar pierced the sky. Boom! Another earth-shattering explosion. Xiong Qiguang was enveloped in the light. He was hit by the black dragon and disappeared. Everyone was stunned for a moment. There was a short moment of silence. Ha ha! A crisp laughter broke the silence. It was Lu Rian's vengeful laughter. Shimin Xiao, did you see that? A rat was trampled to death. How pitiful! Lu Rian mocked. Chapter 819. The battle between Xiong Qiguang and Long Zhaitian didn't last long before the former was sent to the respawn point. No one expected Xiong Qiguang to be eliminated so quickly. Rowena and the others were suddenly energized as they looked at Shimin Xiao with a mocking expression. Chen Fulin and the other two were shocked as a chill ran down their spines. Was Gun's prodigy really that weak? It shouldn't be. Shimin Xiao didn't show any reaction to Rowena's words as he continued to look lazy. However, Shimin Xiao felt even worse, as if he had eaten a fly. It didn't feel good to be slapped in the face on the spot. Shimin Xiao and Xiong Qiguang had known each other for many years, so he had some confidence in his friend's abilities. Long Zhaitian was indeed stronger than Xiong Qiguang, but he shouldn't have been able to eliminate Xiong Qiguang in just a few moves. The truth was right in front of him, so he had no choice but to believe it. Gun's prodigy is just an undeserved reputation. Xiong Qiguang is ranked 7th in the Nam Kuan top 10, but he couldn't even withstand 3 moves from Long Zhaitian. What a weakling, Rowena continued to mock him. Gun has no one to begin with. The only capable ones are those few female cultivators. As for the men, they're all cowards, a young man in white said. The young man in white spoke with a clear voice, as if he was afraid that no one would be able to hear him. All the contestants nearby heard him. It instantly attracted a round of laughter. Gun was already the target of public criticism. Regardless of whether he was a contestant from the other two cultivation empires, they all saw N-Gun as their public enemy. The contestants from the other three cultivation empires were all opportunistic. They would naturally side with whichever side was stronger. This was human nature. After all, these contestants also hoped to get a good ranking. They didn't think that their chances were high. Now that they saw Qian Tsang and Yu King Taixu teaming up against N-Gun, it was a good thing for them. If they could reduce the number of contestants in N-Gun's group, their chances of advancing would greatly increase. Why not? Therefore, when the white-clothed young man said such words, the contestants all laughed in agreement. Moreover, what the white-clothed young man said was not nonsense. It was really the case. N-Gun's number 1 Sky Pride was a female cultivator. 6 of the top 10 were female cultivators. This was the complete opposite of Qian Tsang and Yu Qing Taishu. They had fewer female cultivators in the top 10, only 3 of them. If one were to expand the scope, the Nam Kuan top 10 still had more females than males. The ratio of female cultivators in the top 100 was 63%. It seemed like N-Gun's men were all relying on women to fight and rely on women to solve everything. Even the Spirit Supremes were the same. N-Gun was also a woman. Shiman Xiao was unable to maintain his indolent expression after hearing these words, and he couldn't help but reveal a somewhat cold expression. Battle Zone. Long Zitian sent Xiong Qiguang to the respawn point without using his full strength. Even he himself didn't expect the battle to end so quickly. His confidence was off the charts, and the way he looked at Magic Blue Yarn was different from before. His arrogance was evident in his words. Magic Blue Yarn, Xiong Qiguang has already gone to the respawn point. Now that N-Gun has no other candidates, it should be your turn now. Long Zitian looked at Magic Blue Yarn mockingly. Magic Blue Yarn clenched her teeth, sweat dripping down her forehead. Whether she fought or not, she was destined to embarrass N-Gun in front of all the contestants today. After the battle with Wei Jinpeng, Magic Blue Yarn didn't have much strength left. Even if she was in her best condition, she might not be a match for Long Zitian. Moreover, she was at the end of her rope. She couldn't run away either. This was even more embarrassing than being sent to the respawn point. She was in a dilemma. She had no choice but to fight. Just as Magic Blue Yarn was about to fight, 2 rays of light flashed across the sky. At the same time, a clear voice sounded. Long Zitian, who said that N-Gun has no one? Let me take you on. The 2 rays of light, one blue and one golden, flashed across the sky and stopped in front of the contestants, revealing their true forms. They were a man and a woman. The man wore a blue robe and had a handsome face. His eyes emitted a blue glow, and the spiritual energy on his body seemed to be burning with blue flames. This person was Shan Gutong, ranked 5th in the Nam Kuan top 10. He came from the Shan family, an ancient cultivator family. This time, he represented the ethereal cerebrum in the competition. However, Shan Gudong's cultivation method had nothing to do with the ethereal cerebrum. In N-Gun, Shan Gutong was considered one of the most outstanding male cultivators. The only male cultivator above him was Feng Buji, who was ranked 2nd in the Nam Kuan top 10 and belonged to the Cloud Jade robe. Including Xiong Qiguang, they were the strongest male cultivators in N-Gun. The rest were all female cultivators. Together with Shan Gutong was a veiled female cultivator. Her face was covered by a thin layer of gauze, and her face could not be seen clearly. She wore a light red robe, and her aura was restrained, making it almost impossible to sense her presence. However, no one recognized this woman. Even Feng Qichang, who was experienced and knowledgeable, could not see it clearly. He could not help but have some doubts in his eyes. Feng Qichang had no impression of this woman's silhouette at all. It seemed like there was no such person among the strongest female cultivators in N-Gun. I was wondering who it was. So it's you, the meat bone. You came at the right time. I'm hungry. I'll eat your meat bone first, then have some dessert, Long Zitian said nonchalantly. He was not interested in Shan Gutong at all. Shan Gutong was indeed much stronger than Xiong Qiguang, but Long Zitian did not take him seriously. Among the male cultivators in Ngun, other than Feng Buji, Long Zitian was not afraid of anyone. Long Zitian just fought. I'm afraid it's unfair to fight continuously. After watching for so long, I'm itching for a fight. Shan Gutong, the last time we fought was 10 years ago. When we were men, we were still rookies in Jindan. Just as Long Zitian finished speaking, Feng Qichang's voice sounded from the side, and a cyclone rose. Shan Gutong's pupils shrank. He had some confidence against Long Zitian, but against Feng Qichang, there was no way he could fight. This guy was a real monster. Not only was his talent high, his battle comprehension was even higher than Yu Qinghe, who was ranked first in the Jade Clear Great Void. Although Long Zitian was unwilling, he did not dare to go against Feng Qichang. He pursed his lips and retreated. Feng Qichang's figure flashed and appeared in front of Shan Gutong. Shan Gutong's heart trembled, but he had no choice but to fight. The contestants watching from afar could see that Feng Qichang was going to fight. Everyone looked at Shan Gutong sympathetically. In the entire spirit realm, other than the three heavenly prides, who else could be Feng Qichang's opponent? The answer was, no one. Facing Feng Qichang, Shan Gutong swallowed his saliva with difficulty, and there was fear in his eyes. Buzz! Feng Qichang reached out one hand. Golden lightning flashed on his palm, as if space was being torn apart. A golden spear revealed its true form in the lightning. The demon-sealing golden lightning spear. A low-grade immortalization magic treasure. Golden lightning was a type of heavenly lightning. It was a natural counter to all living beings in the Hades. Shan Gutong wanted to cry, but it was too late. He could not help but look at the resurrection point. Shan Gutong's divine will moved, and an inconspicuous oil lamp appeared in his hand. 2 blue jade stones floated out. With a bang, the 2 jade stones ignited with blue flames. The Shan family was the guardian of the ancient heavenly star fire seed. When Shan Gutong's spiritual meridian awakened, he had already absorbed the heavenly star fire seed. Once the heavenly star fire appeared, it would burn heaven and earth. The divine cave oil lamp was rumored to have come from an immortal's cave abode. It was said that the immortals used it, and it was an excellent item to seal the heavenly star fire. A top-grade heavenly mystic magic treasure. The 2 jade stones were heavenly star fire stones. When they collided, they would explode with heavenly star fire. A top-grade heavenly mystic magic treasure. The 2 of them took out their natal magic treasures. The entire void was dazzled. The contestants watching from dozens of kilometers away were almost unable to open their eyes. One side was golden lightning, the other was heavenly starfire. Both sides were extremely domineering. The spiritual pressure of both sides was equally terrifying. For a moment, Mars collided with Earth. Shan Gutong, I'm ranked slightly higher than you. I won't bully you. I'll let you make 3 moves. Come at me. Feng Qichang said loudly. F***ck. Shan Gutong cried out in his heart. His eyes narrowed. Feng Qichang clearly did not put him in his eyes. In a battle between cultivators, it was extremely important to seize the initiative. Although he was being looked down upon, Shan Gutong did not refute. He narrowed his eyes. I'll do as you say. Take this. Chapter 820. Before Shan Gutong finished his words, he had already made a move, and 2 pieces of true fire jade flew out of his hands. He did not seem to use any strength, but the 2 pieces of jade flew through the air like meteors, with the momentum of a rainbow. The speed was so fast that it was hard to see with the naked eye. The 2 pieces of jade hit Feng Qichang at the same time. Feng Qichang didn't dodge or block. He just floated in the air, and the spiritual gang around his body flashed with fierce electric sparks. Li Daochong couldn't help but look at Feng Qichang a few more times. The state of this guy releasing spiritual gang was really similar to his. At the moment when the two pieces of jade collided, Feng Qichang's face condensed, and his spirit became violent. He forcibly controlled the two pieces of jade flying at high speed and suspended them in the void 3 meters in front of him. Shan Gudong's eyes flashed with horror. One of his strongest magical powers, mutual destruction, was suppressed by Feng Qichang with spiritual gang. Shan Gutong couldn't help but feel a chill on his back, and a sense of powerlessness emerged from the bottom of his heart. However, this feeling was fleeting. Anyway, he was one of the top people of the younger generation in the spiritual world of the human realm. The battle had just begun, and Shan Gutong was not so cowardly. He raised his hands, fiercely put them together, and shouted with full breath. Mutual destruction, explode. The two pieces of jade that were controlled rotated fiercely, and the fierce friction made the jade itself constantly burst into sparks. Feng Qichang's eyes were startled, and he shouted softly, "Come on, meat bone, I underestimated you." As soon as the voice fell, the two pieces of jade that were rotating to the extreme burst into sparks of true fire, igniting Feng Qichang's spiritual gang, and he got rid of the control in an instant. Boom! The two pieces of jade collided with each other, and a group of heavenly star true fire burst out, bursting out flames that could burn the sky. Feng Qichang was swallowed whole. The contestants watching in the distance opened their eyes wide and looked at this scene in surprise. No one expected that Shan Gutong could break Feng Qichang's control and counter it. A light smile appeared on Shan Gudong's face. Feng Qichang thought too highly of himself, so much so that he was overconfident. He actually allowed the true fire jade stone to be so close to him. True fire was the heavenly fire, on the same level as the heavenly thunder. No matter how talented you were, you wouldn't be able to withstand the refinement of true fire. Heh, Feng Qichang, giving me 3 moves is good. Shan Gutong could not help but mutter to himself. Crack, crack. The true fire that engulfed Feng Qichang suddenly exploded with golden lightning from the inside out. With a buzzing sound, the golden lightning engulfed the real fire in an instant. The raging real fire disappeared, as if it had been eaten by a fire-devouring beast. What? Before Shan Gutong could feel proud of himself, his expression froze. He looked at the unscathed Feng Qichang in astonishment. He was completely dumbfounded. 1 move over. Fleshbone, make your second move. Feng Qichang held the demon-sealing golden lightning spear with a calm expression. He did not look like he had been burned by the real fire at all. Not even a single hair was harmed. While Shan Gutong was shocked, the immortal cave oil lamp floating beside him flew up into the sky and became bigger and bigger. Finally, it turned into a huge lamp that was 30 meters tall. The lamp cover was opened and the mouth of the lamp was facing downwards. The heavenly star domain immediately enveloped Feng Qichang. Immediately after, Shan Gutong shot out a circle of light from his hand into the oil lamp. Pung! The immortal cave oil lamp was ignited, and terrifying real fire spewed out from within. The flames were like waves, surging towards Feng Qichang. Dong! Almost at the same time, Feng Qichang held the demon-sealing golden lightning spear in front of him and smashed down heavily. The void seemed to be solid, and the end of the spear seemed to have hit the ground, making a muffled sound. The space seemed to have cracked. Gotcha! Shan Gutong groaned and spat out a mouthful of blood. The heavenly star domain was directly shattered by Feng Qichang's smash. It was broken so simply and violently. Hiss! Magic Blue Yarn gasped and looked at Feng Qichang in shock. She couldn't calm down the waves in her heart. The domain with the power of law was broken just like that. How was it possible? The real fire spewed out by the immortal cave oil lamp was forcefully blocked more than 10 meters away from Feng Qichang. It couldn't get close at all. After breaking the domain, The real fire alone couldn't even break through Feng Qichang's spiritual highland. For the vast majority of cultivators, true fire was fatal even without any support. Needless to say, the creatures of the Hades would be annihilated in an instant. The golden lightning emitted from the demon's sealing golden lightning spear soon suppressed the real fire and sent it back into the immortal cave oil lamp. Feng Qichang stood in the air and looked at Shan Gutong seriously. The second move is over. The third move is over. Make your move. Feng Qichang's motionless attitude made everyone's heart tremble. It was as if all attacks were futile against him. Even Long Zitian and Zhongli Qiongchang were shocked. They didn't expect Feng Qichang to be so strong. They couldn't help but secretly rejoice that Feng Qichang was on their side and not their opponent. Having such an opponent was simply a nightmare. Shan Gutong was ranked 5th on the prodigy list, but in front of Feng Qichang, he was like a child. Not to mention that his punch had no lethality, it couldn't even scratch an itch. Damn it! Shan Gutong cursed unwillingly, but it seemed that this was all he could do. The rebound of the domain being broken injured Shan Gutong's primordial spirit and almost sent him to the resurrection point. With his primordial spirit injured, his vitality was greatly reduced. Shan Gutong made 2 moves and didn't hurt his opponent, but his strength was greatly reduced. How could he make the third move? What? No more moves? If not, then kill yourself. Feng Qichang couldn't help but ask when he saw Shan Gutong's lack of reaction. These words were like an arrow that shot into Shan Gutong's heart, causing his anger to surge. Heavenly meteor fire! Shan Gutong roared. The true fire jade flew towards the immortal cave oil lamp. The 2 pieces of jade collided violently, sending sparks flying into the oil lamp. Originally, the true fire in the immortal cave oil lamp was floating in the center, and the wick at the bottom was not lit. Now, the sparks from the true fire jade flew into the lamp, igniting the wick. Ping! The flame in the oil lamp instantly grew stronger. Shan Gutong clenched his fist, and the flame inside flew out and landed on top of his head. 3 flowers at once prominence, heavenly meteor fall. Veins bulged all over Shan Gutong's body, and his face was ferocious. He hadn't fully comprehended this divine ability. Not only was he not familiar with it, but his cultivation wasn't enough to use it. There was only one consequence of forcefully using it, and that was to destroy everything. The consequence of Shan Gutong forcefully using it was to burn his primordial spirit. Although the primordial spirit wouldn't really be burned in the Joshuan God realm, the feeling of the soul was exactly the same as in the real world, and the pain of the soul burning was even more intense. Shan Gutong roared, and his primordial spirit was completely burned. A beam of star fire shot out from the oil lamp. Compared to the previous 2 moves, the power this time was much weaker. However, Feng Qichang's eyes flashed. He raised the demon's sealing golden lightning spear for the first time, and his expression was solemn. Feng Qichang's aura was completely different from before. With a shake of his wrist, the spear light pierced through the air like a dragon leaping out. Zing! It brought along golden lightning. A golden spear light shot out. Not far away, Li Daocheng's eyes focused, and a trace of excitement rose in his heart. With a buzzing sound, the spear light and the star fire collided. In an instant, the star fire was annihilated, and the spear light swept past. Shan Gutong's eyes widened as he saw the spear light rushing towards him. Then, it dissipated in the air, and went to the resurrection point. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 821. Feng Qichang was able to defeat Shan Gutong, who was ranked 5th in the Nam Kuan top 10, with only a passive defense. His cultivation was beyond everyone's imagination. They knew he was strong, but they didn't know he was this strong. Shan Gutong's strength was definitely among the top in the human realm, but he wasn't even qualified to make Feng Qichang fight him. Everyone, including Long Zhaitian and Zhongli Qiongchang, looked at Feng Qichang in shock. The problem was, Feng Qichang was already so strong, but he was only ranked second in the Jade Clear Great Void Republic's prodigy roll. Then how strong was Yu Qinghe, who was ranked first? The contestants watching from afar felt a sense of helplessness. Feng Qichang put away the demon-sealing golden lightning spear and stood with his hands behind his back. He glanced at Magic Blue Yarn and the unfamiliar woman, then returned to his original position. "Brother Feng, you're not going to fight anymore?" Long Zhaitian asked curiously. "No, one battle is enough. You can go next," Feng Qichang said calmly. "Okay." Long Zhaitian smiled and flew up to Magic Blue Yarn. "Come, it's our turn." Magic Blue Yarn's expression was serious. Just as she was about to speak, the unfamiliar woman with a veil said, "Let me." Magic Blue Yarn glanced at the woman and nodded slightly. The veiled woman's aura didn't change. Her figure flashed and appeared in front of Long Zhaitian. "Miss, I'll give you a word of advice. Don't try to be brave. It won't do you any good," Long Zhaitian said seriously. "Cut the crap. Attack," the unfamiliar woman said coldly. Li Daocheng's eyes moved slightly. He touched his chin. That unfamiliar woman's tone sounded familiar. Li Daocheng's divine sense moved and a light smile appeared on his face. So it was her. Long Zhaitian narrowed his eyes and his expression turned cold. How dare a nobody talk to him like that? "As you wish." Long Zhaitian's calm voice was filled with murderous intent, and the spiritual energy around him surged out like a rolling river. The black dragon projection covered an area of several dozen kilometers, as if a dragon god had descended upon the world. The masked woman didn't want to be outdone. She released her aura. Although she didn't have a Dharma idol's shadow, her whole body was burning with golden flames. Its color was almost exactly the same as Feng Qichang's golden lightning, but its attributes were completely different. One was golden lightning, while the other was golden flames. The golden flames were like a sea of clouds that covered the sky, igniting the void. On one side was the shadow of a black dragon, while on the other side was the sky filled with golden flames. Feng Qichang and Zhongli Qiongshang's expressions changed slightly. They were both surprised. They didn't expect the masked woman to be able to compete with Long Zhaitian in terms of aura. It was impossible to say that this woman was a nobody. However, no matter how good Feng Qichang's eyesight was, he still couldn't figure out who she was. Among all the people present, except for Li Daocheng, no one could figure out who she was. It was as if this woman had appeared out of thin air. Her aura exploded, and her spiritual pressure covered an area of several hundred kilometers. However, everyone, including Feng Qichang, was unfamiliar with this powerful aura. Long Zhaitian's eyes flashed with a black light, and his heart trembled slightly. He didn't expect this masked woman to have such a powerful spiritual pressure field. It was beyond his expectations. Interesting. Long Zhaitian licked his lips and showed a bloodthirsty look. 2 horns appeared on his forehead, and black scales appeared on his body. He didn't intend to hold back. The best way to deal with an unfamiliar strong opponent was to end the battle quickly. "Black dragon worships the sky, kill!" Long Zhaitian shouted, and a dragon head blade appeared out of thin air, turning into a black dragon and slashing at the masked woman. Golden flame swallows the sky. With a delicate shout, the golden flames rolled up like a tsunami and pounced on Long Zhaitian. Both sides made their moves and collided with each other. The black dragon plunged into the waves of fire. For a moment, the black dragon was twisting and turning in the waves of fire in the void. It jumped out of the waves of fire for a while, and then plunged into the waves of fire and disappeared. The dragon's roar kept coming from the void, and the sea of fire burst out with a deafening buzzing sound. Every sound indicated the endless vitality of the sea of fire, as if it would never be extinguished. Finally, with a dragon's roar, the black dragon swallowed the sea of fire. Long Zitian's black dragon worships the sky is so powerful. Did he win? Some of the participants who were watching from afar exclaimed. However, as soon as the voice fell, the black dragon rolled in pain, and the golden flames burned the black dragon from the inside out. However, the golden flames also dissipated at the last moment. They were evenly matched in one move. I underestimated you. Miss, can you tell me your name? Long Zitian stared at the veiled female cultivator and said loudly. If you want to fight, then fight. Why are you talking so much nonsense? The veiled female cultivator said impatiently. Long Zitian was speechless, and the murderous intent in his eyes intensified. If he didn't chop this little girl up today, he wouldn't be able to vent the resentment in his heart. In the blink of an eye, the veiled female cultivator had already made her move. A thumb-sized golden ball of light spun, carrying golden flames. Whoosh! With a sharp sound, the golden ball of fire shot toward Long Zitian. Clang! Long Zitian blocked with the dragon's saber in his hand, and with a crisp sound of metal colliding, he felt his hand go slightly numb. In that instant, countless golden granules condensed and formed, surrounding Long Zitian in all directions. What kind of move is this? Zhongli Qiongchang looked confused. She had never seen or even heard of any of the magical powers that the veiled female cultivator used. Feng Qichang's eyes glowed, and his divine thoughts ran quickly, searching for the relevant records of the move in front of him in his memory, but he found nothing. Golden flames, what kind of fire is it? Feng Qichang seemed to think of something, but he wasn't sure, so he continued to ask. There are 3 kinds of golden flames. The 5 elements golden flames are a kind of spiritual fire. The Samadhi golden flames are a kind of true fire, formed by the fusion of the 3 spiritual fires, and the last kind is more special. Zhongli Qiongchang's beautiful eyes move. What's the other kind? Feng Qichang saw Zhongli Qiongchang stop and asked. The other kind is the fire that the ancient divine beast, the phoenix, erupts when it is reborn, also known as the nirvana true fire. Zhongli Qiongchang continued to answer. Phoenix nirvana. Feng Qichang thought of something and murmured. His eyes flashed. Could this girl be from the Yen family with the phoenix bloodline? Zhongli Qiongchang Lu Mei was slightly moved and asked doubtfully. The Yen family inherited the phoenix bloodline. Although they are strong and have always been a prosperous family in Nankuan, they have never stepped into the top 10 of Nam Kuan top 10. The strongest of this generation, Yen Feng, is only in the 40s. A few months before the competition, Yen Feng even fought with someone, and her strength was not much different from her previous ranking. The girl in front of us is much stronger than Yen Feng. Long Zitian is a top genius ranked 4th on the Qian Song Heaven's chosen list. If she really is Yen Feng, she wouldn't even be able to take one hit. After listening to Zhongli Qiongchang's analysis, Feng Qichang didn't waver in his speculation. Instead, his pair of golden brown eyes flashed with even more certainty. She is Yen Feng. What? Zhongli Qiongchang's eyes were filled with shock. If that was the case, then wouldn't there be another strong opponent in the competition for the second female cultivator? But how did Yen Feng increase her strength so much in such a short time? Zhongli Qiongchang couldn't help but bite her lower lip. It seemed that she had misjudged the situation. While the two were talking, Long Zitian and the masked girl had already exchanged more than 10 blows. Both sides went back and forth, each showing off their skills. Long Zitian obviously held back his strength. From the beginning, he wanted to end the battle quickly, but now he was testing the waters. Once an expert made a move, one would know whether or not they were strong. When the two attacks collided, Long Zitian knew that this masked girl wasn't an opponent that he could take down in a few moves. If he wasn't careful, he could fall and be killed by his opponent. That would be too embarrassing. Long Zitian wasn't afraid of losing, but he couldn't lose to a nobody. The masked girl was terrifyingly calm. No matter what kind of skills Long Zetian used, she was able to dissolve them all. The power of the golden fire was incredible. All the skills that the masked girl used were essentially different forms of the golden fire. It seemed that other than controlling the golden fire, the masked girl didn't have any other skills. But even though it seemed like a simple skill, it couldn't be broken. Long Zetian's dragon mouth blade was blocked by the golden fire. Not only that, but the surface of the blade, which was a top-grade mysterious sky treasure made of gung armor essence iron, was melting under the continuous burning of the golden fire. Long Zetian looked at the melting dragon mouth blade and felt his heart bleed. This treasure was very valuable, and he had spent a lot of high-grade spirit stones. If he wanted to restore it to its original state, he would have to spend at least tens of millions of high-grade spirit stones. True fire skills had a restraining effect on most treasures. After all treasures were made of different kinds of spirit fires and true fires. Fortunately, this was the Jiuquan realm of the gods. Otherwise, the loss would be great. But even so, the dragon mouth blade was useless against his opponent, so there was no need to use it. Long Zetian put away the blade and put his palms together. His fingers were bent and his fingertips were slightly open, looking like a dragon with its mouth open. Swimming dragon, water break. Roar with a dragon's roar, a black liquid dragon jumped out of Long Zetian's palms. Like a column of water spurting out from an overpressured state, it rushed towards the veiled female cultivator. Fire lotus bloom. The masked girl fiddled with her fingers, and a golden light flashed. A golden fire lotus condensed and bloomed in the blink of an eye. However, the seemingly beautiful golden fire lotus turned into a man-eating giant flower in the blink of an eye. Its blooming petals turned into a giant mouth with raging flames. It swallowed the oncoming black water dragon in one gulp, leaving not even a drop of water behind. What? Long Zetian's eyes widened. He looked at the scene in disbelief. The first move of the Dragon Emperor technique was broken just like that. Black dragon soars to the sky, storm. Long Zetian was shocked and hurriedly performed the second move. For a moment, a strong wind blew. A black whirlwind dragon broke through the air and collided with the golden fire lotus. Boom! Waves of fire rose and the wind raged. Long Zetian was sent flying a few kilometers. The masked girl was not much better. She was also sent flying a few kilometers away. They seemed to be evenly matched. In fact, Long Zetian lost by one move. He had to perform two moves at the same time to tie with his opponent. Damn it! Long Zetian cursed. With a swoosh, he flew back to his original position. The masked girl was one step ahead of him. Her forehead and eyebrows were exposed. There was no change in her expression. Her eyes were as calm as water. In terms of momentum, Long Zetian was also at a disadvantage. The arrogance on Long Zetian's face had long disappeared. He looked at the masked girl in front of him with fear. Although the Dragon Emperor technique still had more powerful moves, Long Zetian did not want to expose all his trump cards so soon. The competition was still far from over. Long Zetian's hands, which were hanging by his side, suddenly spread open. Buzz! 3 black swords appeared around him. 2 black daggers appeared in his hands. At the same time, the black scales on Long Zetian's body became more prosperous. He no longer looked like a human. He looked more like a humanoid monster. The 2 horns on his forehead extended several inches. The white of his eyes turned yellow. His pupils turned from round to slender oval. The whole process was completed in an instant. Long Zetian did not even stop flying. He rushed toward the masked girl. The latter was as light as a breeze. Apart from the golden flames around her, there was not much change. A 7-colored whip appeared in each of her hands. Long Zetian's 3 black swords shot out like a rainbow. They shot toward the masked girl like black lightning. Buzz! Pa! The masked girl casually swung one of the 7-colored whips in her hand. The space seemed to crack. The 3 black swords were blocked. Long Zitian appeared behind the masked girl with 2 daggers in his hands. He stabbed at the girl's back with 2 black lights. This diversionary tactic was about to succeed. The masked girl's other 7-colored whip automatically swept backward, as if it had grown eyes. Long Zitian's wrists were coiled. Golden flames spread from the 7-colored whip to Long Zitian's arms. Long Zitian's eyes narrowed. He loosened his hands. Ignoring the golden flames burning his arms, he quickly shot out the 2 daggers and continued to stab the masked girl's back. Injury for injury. This kind of desperate fighting style was the most troublesome. The masked female cultivator's calm brows furrowed slightly. The 2 daggers pierced right through the middle of his back. Before Long Zitian could raise the corner of his mouth, the masked girl's figure gradually dissipated. The daggers had only pierced through a shadow. The 7-colored whip coiled around Long Zitian's wrists loosened. However, he grabbed it. So what if it's true fire? The Black Dragon scale armor is the strongest dragon armor. It's comparable to a defensive magic treasure. Why would it fear true fire? After saying that, Long Zitian let the golden flames on the 7-colored whip grab it tightly. The masked girl dodged and disappeared. Wang Ling, who had been watching the fierce battle from beside Li Daochong, had sweaty hands. A battle of this level was like a fight between immortals to her. Where is she? Wang Ling did not know where the masked girl went. She looked around but could not find her shadow. She could not help but feel puzzled. Behind you, Li Daochong said unhurriedly. Wang Ling turned her head and saw the masked female cultivator floating less than 10 meters behind her in the void. She was immediately startled. Li Daochong, how did you know? Wang Ling swallowed her saliva. I guessed. Li Daochong replied casually. You can even guess that? You're really a god. Wang Ling sighed. Li Daochong shrugged and didn't comment. He looked at the masked woman with a smile in his eyes. The latter also looked at Li Daochong. Their eyes met, and they seemed to see something in each other's eyes. Black Dragon sacrificial heaven kill. Long Zitian roared from below. 3 black flying swords with black flames came crashing down. Wang Ling looked at the black flames coming at her like an avalanche and turned pale with fright. The masked girl floated there as steadily as Mount Tai. It was as if she did not see Long Zitian's attack. She just looked at Li Daochong indifferently. Li Daochong pursed his lips. The corner of his eyes flashed. Chapter 8:22. The masked female cultivator seemed to have sensed that Li Daochong was about to make a move, and her eyes were filled with anticipation. However, in the next moment, Li Daochong's aura suddenly disappeared, and the black wave of fire swept past his position. He was long gone. The masked female cultivator was shocked. She narrowly avoided the attack of the fire wave, and during the process, she did not forget to look for Li Daochong. However, there was still a figure there. Dozens of kilometers away, Wang Ling's face was pale, and she was gasping for breath, her heart beating violently. She thought she was going to die and had to go to the resurrection point. But in the blink of an eye, she had teleported to a safe area dozens of kilometers away. Wang Ling had no idea what had happened just now. After a long while, Wang Ling finally caught her breath. Her breathing gradually calmed down, and her beautiful eyes were filled with doubt as she raised her wrist and looked at it. There was a clear handprint on her wrist, which was slightly red, as if someone had grabbed her. Only then did Wang Ling realize that she had been saved. The other party was so fast that she had no time to react. Suddenly, Wang Ling raised her head and looked at the center of the battle. Then, she sighed and muttered to herself, I wonder if Li Daochong was saved by the mysterious person. At this moment, Li Daochong was already tens of thousands of kilometers away, and his speed was extremely terrifying when he used the 1,000-sound escape at full strength. Now that he had reached 1,000th of the speed of light, he could escape 300 kilometers in a second. Even if the old fusion stage demon used his escape technique to the maximum, he might not be able to reach such a terrifying speed. Li Daochong had no intention of getting involved in the dispute from the beginning. He just wanted to understand the current situation of the competition and the strength of the true monsters in the spirit world of the human realm. The most important thing for him now was to find the silver bottle. Therefore, when the masked female cultivator wanted to force Li Daochong to make a move, he immediately flew away. During the process of watching the battle, Li Daochong separated dozens of souls to search the 5th imperial capital, but he did not find any trace of the silver bottle. Since he did not want to watch the battle in peace, there was no need to continue staying. Thus, Li Daochong took advantage of the situation and headed towards his next destination, Imperial Capital No. 4, saving Wang Ling along the way. There was no sign of the silver bottle in the 5th and 6th cities. There were still 8 imperial capitals left to search. With the experience of crossing the imperial capital for the first time, Li Daochong was no longer a blind man who had to cross the river by feeling the stones. He had a rough idea of the distance in his heart. Along the way, Li Daochong did not rush. Instead, he hunted as he traveled. Whenever he sensed a powerful Jiuquan netherworld item, Li Daochong would hunt it down. Battle achievements were no longer important to Li Daochong, but it was necessary to collect information on different netherworld items and accumulate combat experience. By the time Li Daochong arrived at the No. 4 imperial capital, it took him more than twice as long to reach the No. 5 imperial capital from the No. 6 imperial capital. It took them more than 10 days to arrive at capital No. 4. After finding a secluded place, Li Daochong divided dozens of souls and began to search for traces of the silver bottle. One day passed and he found nothing. It was as if the silver bottle had never appeared in the Jiuquan realm of the gods. After retrieving all of his souls, Li Daochong slowly opened his pitch-black starry eyes, which were filled with confusion and confusion. Could it be that the silver bottle had encountered some mishap when it entered the Jiuquan realm of the gods and did not enter the Jiuquan realm of the gods? Li Daochong and the silver bottle had grown up together. They were more familiar with each other than anyone else. Perhaps they could not reach the magical state of telepathy, but their sensitivity to each other's aura was far greater than that of other people's. Even the slightest trace of aura could not escape from each other's senses. However, no matter how hard Li Daochong searched, he could not find any trace of the silver bottle. This made Li Daochong feel that it was strange. There were also several battles taking place around Capital No. 4. Li Daochong was no longer in the mood to watch the battles. After searching for a while, Li Daochong flew towards Capital No. 3. For some reason, the distance between Capital No. 4 and Capital No. 3 was further than the distance between the first 3. Li Daochong was not distracted. He continued to hunt as he traveled. During this time, he killed at least thousands of Jiuquan netherworld creatures. However, these netherworld creatures did not give much battle points. Even the powerful Jiuquan netherworld creatures did not give as much battle points as killing contestants. Time continued to pass. More than 20 days had passed. 1.5 months had passed since Li Daochong left Capital No. 6. 8.5 months had passed since the first round of the test. In another 3.5 months, the first round of the test would be over. Finally, on the 25th day after leaving Capital No. 4, Li Daochong arrived at Capital No. 3's hunting zone. During Li Daochong's journey, the hunting space for the contestants from the Kuan Empire was further reduced. All non-Kuan contestants quietly reached a consensus to attack the contestants from the Kuan Empire first. At the same time, the top 20 sky prides from the Qiansong Empire and the Yuqing Taishu Republic were all looking for a contestant called Li Daochong. They had all received an order. Killing Li Daochong would give them a great reward from the talisman of 10,000 wonders. The reward would be doubled if they killed him twice. The talisman of 10,000 wonders promised that as long as they killed him once, the reward would be given immediately. There was no need to wait until the end of the competition. Li Daochong, who had been on his way, did not know that he had become the target of public criticism. Capital Number 3's hunting zone was 3 times larger than Capital Number 4, 5, and 6. The number of contestants here was much more than Capital Number 4, 5, and 6. Capital Number 3 seemed to be an even bigger competition zone. Li Daochong did not know why it was arranged this way. However, the larger the hunting zone, the more difficult the search would be, and the longer the search would take. Due to the high density of participants near the third imperial capital, Li Daochong was unable to find a suitable quiet place for a while. Even in the depths of the valley, there were many contestants hunting. Li Daochong searched for half a day and finally found a deserted place in the depths of a swamp filled with miasma. The number of contestants within a radius of tens of kilometers decreased drastically. Li Daochong was a little confused at first, but he soon sensed an extremely well-hidden dark qi from the Jiuxuan. There was something strange in the swamp. Li Daochong hovered in the air above the swamp. The mist around him was hazy, and the mud below him occasionally bubbled. His ruptured mud robe spewed out a pungent miasma. At the same time, a thick gray mist rose. Combined with all kinds of strange dead trees growing around him, the overall environment was extremely gloomy and terrifying. There seemed to be countless dark ghosts hidden in the depths of the mist. They could jump out at any time to give him a scare. Li Daochong spread out his divine will, and a faint smile appeared on his face. No wonder no one came here. It was not that there were no dark creatures to hunt here. It was just that there were too many of them. Contestants of Nji's level would only be sending themselves to their deaths if they came here. Li Daochong looked at the swamp below him and touched his chin. He said in surprise, "Even such ferocious Hades beasts can appear here. The Jiuxuan spirit supremacy is indeed an immortal." Li Daochong spread out his divine will and detected the Jiuxuan dark qi that was not weaker than a demon king. At the same time, he sensed a strong sense of weakness. If he guessed correctly, there was a dark king-level ferocious beast hidden in the swamp. At the same time, there were hundreds of giant miasma monsters in the swamp. Poof! Just as Li Daochong was concentrating, a dark red tentacle suddenly shot out from the swamp behind him. It was like the tentacle of a giant octopus, and it was full of barbed suction cups. It launched a sneak attack from behind and swept toward Li Daochong. Chapter 8:23. Li Daochong did not turn around. He looked to the side, and his lips curled up slightly as a purple light flashed. The giant tentacle that was swiftly swatting towards him was instantly cut in half. Crash! The tentacle that was more than 10 meters long fell into the swamp, splashing up muddy wave. Immediately, the swamp churned violently. A huge creature was twisting in pain below. A few seconds later, a huge creature came out of the swamp. Other than its black color, it was no different from an octopus. It was clearly a black octopus, but its body was much larger. Its head was more than 30 meters in diameter. This was the giant miasma monster that was born and bred in the Netherworld Sea region. It could devour almost all spiritual beings. Its appetite was shockingly large, and it was known as the gluttonous beast of the Hades. Its strength was similar to a low-level demon general, but its actual combat strength was stronger, especially its defense. In addition, it had 15 tentacles that could extend and change at will. It had many variations in its attacks, making it impossible to guard against. This giant miasma monster that had one of its tentacles cut off by Li Daochong had a pair of wash-basin-sized eyes burning with anger. This little reptile in front of it had actually injured it. It could not be forgiven. It had to eat him. Roar. A roar that seemed to come from hell soared into the sky. The giant miasma monster opened its mouth, revealing a mess of malevolent teeth. It bit at Li Daochong like a blender. Zing! A beam of purple light fell from the sky, bringing with it a faint light. The giant miasma monster did not even have time to react. Its head was split in half, and its huge body was split in half. Swish! Another grayish-silver light flashed. An unremarkable knife flew out from Li Daochong's hand. Before it could touch the giant miasma monster that was split in half, the chi of primal chaos crushed it. This was the first time Li Daochong used the primal chaos knife. He only wanted to test its power. He did not expect the destructive power to be so strong. The giant miasma monster could not resist at all. At this moment, the swamp below churned like a tsunami. Dozens of giant miasma monsters came out from different directions. They surrounded Li Daochong. "Since you're in such a hurry to die, I'll fulfill your wishes." A cold light flashed in Li Daochong's eyes as he unleashed his divine telekinesis, manipulating the Chaos Dagger and Purple Mystic to attack indiscriminately. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! In the blink of an eye, more than 10 giant miasma monsters were killed, leaving nothing behind. These aggressive giant miasma monsters did not even have time to display their powerful strength before they were crushed. The remaining giant miasma monster turned from a ferocious tiger to a small cat. Its eyes were filled with terror as if it had seen the demon king of Hades. Just as Li Daochong was about to wipe out all of the giant miasma monsters, a dark gray light shot out from below. The speed was extremely fast. Even Li Daochong was almost unable to dodge it. Fortunately, the Thousand Sonic Escape was in a state of storing up power. Otherwise, Li Daochong would really fall for it. That dark gray light seemed unremarkable, but Li Daochong felt an indescribable sense of weakness. The vegetation on the swamp withered at a speed visible to the naked eye, turning into dust and dissipating in the wind. The Chaos Dagger and Purple Mystic were both affected. They slowed down and automatically activated their defenses to resist the chi of weakness. In the void more than 10 meters in front of Li Daochong, a shadow flickered. A thing that was neither human nor ghost appeared there. Its overall shape was like a human, but it only had one leg. The other leg was always on its waist. It had a cow's nose, double eyes, a pair of sharp horns on its head, and an iron fan on its back. This was the nightmare demon king of Hades, Su Duo. It was a creature of the Hades that was neither a demon nor a ghost nor a beast. In the Great War 1,000 years ago, it had killed countless high-level cultivators of the human domain. It had even killed a late-stage tribulation-passing cultivator. The Su Duo that controlled the law of weakness had caused the entire human domain to tremble in fear. Its attack power was not strong. It did not have any powerful dark arts, nor did it have many tricks. Its demon body was also not that strong. But as long as one was close to it, anyone would be affected by the law of weakness and their strength would decrease greatly. Cultivators with a slightly lower cultivation level would immediately lose their spirit chi and become ordinary people once they got close. The bug-like passive effect became the Su Duo's most powerful trump card. The most terrifying thing was that the law of weakness could ignore the level of cultivation. Spiritual venerables would also be weakened if they got close. Li Daochong's spiritual sense was as strong as a peak unification stage cultivator. It could even compete with an early-stage tribulation-passing cultivator. The spiritual sense barrier was as strong as a rock and airtight, but it could not block the chi of weakness. Even the spiritual highland was weakened to the point of disappearing. So powerful, Li Daochong said in surprise. The Su Duo was not a mysterious demon. The human domain spirit world did not know much about it. Li Daochong naturally knew everything about the Su Duo, but he did not expect it to be so powerful. "Human cultivator, how dare you kill my demon pet?" The Su Duo looked at Li Daochong with gloomy eyes. He wanted nothing more than to bite off his head to vent his anger. "So what if I killed it?" Li Daochong shrugged. Li Daochong seemed to be indifferent and was not afraid of the Su duo at all, but he was a little uncertain in his heart. At this moment, his primordial spirit was weak and could not use its full strength. Although the connection between him and Zishuan and the Chaos Knife was still there, it was vague. But even so, Li Daochong did not care, because he still had many other trump cards to use. For example, the level 19 talisman, the heavenly thunder spell, and so on. You killed my demon pet, I will imprison you in this world forever, the Su duo said coldly. Li Daochong heard this and was puzzled. There was such a thing? The Jiuxuan underworld object could transcend the Jiuxuan law and imprison the soul that entered the Jiuxuan divine realm here, surpassing the control of the Jiuxuan spiritual venerables? Damn it, was this guy bluffing? Or could it really be done like this? Weakening domain, the Su duo said softly. Li Daochong felt his body sink, and the gravity around him suddenly increased by several hundred times. That was not all, his whole person seemed to have gone through a life and death battle, and he was a little breathless. Spiritual qi was constantly flowing out of his body. Li Daochong's eyes flashed purple, and the second primordial spirit, the heavenly thunder primordial spirit, slowly rose in the world in his body. The purple profound heavenly thunder quickly spread, enveloping the world in his body. In just a few breaths of time, Li Daochong's heavy feeling disappeared, and he could no longer feel the weakness. But on the surface, he still looked very weak, as if he could fall from the sky and fall into the swamp at any time. Sleep, human cultivator. In front of you is the celestial world gate that you yearn for the most. Go in and you can enter the paradise. The Su duo's voice was extremely bewitching, and the aura of weakness became more and more solid. The surrounding air became sticky and slow. There was no wind, no sound, and it was terrifyingly quiet. Everything fell into a dead silence. Li Daochong slowly closed his eyes. Su duo's eyes revealed a smug smile, and he suddenly moved. The leg hanging from his waist stepped on Li Daochong's head. Void eternal restriction. Su duo shouted. Suddenly, Li Daochong's closed eyes suddenly opened, and purple light flashed in his eyes. Whoosh! A blue light shot out. The smile in Su duo's eyes disappeared, and he was shocked. Boom! Thunder accompanied by blue lightning poured into Su duo's body, and he was sent flying. Su duo was dizzy from the explosion, and his body was surrounded by lightning, and he was in great pain. You actually broke through my weakening domain. Su duo stared at Li Daochong in disbelief. Level 19 Thunder Talisman, it's useless, Li Daochong said regretfully. He thought that it could at least cause some damage. But Su duo was only sent flying, and all the thunder power poured into his body did not cause any effective damage. It should be known that thunder power had a multiplier effect on all netherworld creatures, and it was the nemesis of all netherworld creatures. The thunder power of a level 19 thunder talisman was comparable to ordinary thunder. Li Daochong pretended to be weak, and then attacked him when he least expected it. Su duo was hit, but he was not injured. This play was in vain. No wonder you dared to step into this dead swamp alone. You have something to rely on. Good, very good, very good. Human cultivator, let me see what else you can do. Su duo snorted, and the huge iron fan behind him slowly flew into his hand. Wonderful book house. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.